Okay.
Hey y'all,
Hey, Grand, how you doing, buddy?
how you doing, Brad? You doing good?
Hey, Grant.
Yep,
Yeah, how you doing?
that's Matt.
Oh,
That would
good.
be that would be Matt. All right, so
Yep.
all right, hey fam, how's it hanging? It's the 17th of April. It is a Wednesday morning out on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's evening
Although
in Germany though.
really, it's a Wednesday morning out in Germany.
Yeah, kinda. Except it's evening.
Yeah, so yeah, I would I can't. The title says it's comics and coffee, and I just already had that. I already had a cup before we met, and I went live.
You getting hyperactive or something when you have coffee?
I'm a zombie before I have my first coffee.
So you're a crackhead.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah. So, although I like to say I'm a more functional crackhead than Andy Worski.
Bro, crackheads are hella functional. Like, I genuinely believe that if you send crackheads to the Olympics, they will win like gold medals. Like, they can do backflips and stuff.
Crackheads are more. I'll give you that much. Crackheads are at least more functional than tweakers. And right now,
What are,
Washington is full of tweakers,
what are tweakers?
meth heads.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is Washington's big thing is either meth or heroin.
Damn, that's very like low. Like if you do drugs, at least do the cool ones, dude. Don't shoot don't shoot up rat poison.
I would agree, or at least just do what everyone else does and search for alcohol.
Yeah, just be adjustable.
Exactly.
Be a real human being.
Yeah, I mean, like that's something you're fucking German. I'm Irish. We're both. Alcohol's practically mother's milk for both of us.
Bro, I never drank in my life. I drink alcohol free beer. There we go.
And you live in a country that has a festival dedicated to getting smashed.
Bro, that's gonna actually like I wonder how long they will keep that actually up because I don't know, man. People
Really,
are mad at Tehran.
you honestly think? Wait. You honestly think Germany would get rid of Oktoberfest? I'm imagining
Germany got rid of everything that's German.
it's just
Most
like
of Germany looks like Eastern Europe, like Romania or something. Like if you come here, you will think you're like in Poland or like now Poland is actually has cool architecture, but it's pretty depressing.
Hey, there's Karl.
Hey,
Hey, Karl, you gonna behave
Hey.
on this stream?
Dude, you better fucking behave.
Oh,
Is there any
man.
rules to this stream? Like, can Grand use racial slurs because he is of that race?
Well, we do have a token yellow man here.
Sometimes
Ah.
people confuse me for yellow. I'm somewhere between Mexican and yellow.
Yeah, you got yellow fever though.
I have those. Yeah, that too. I have those Charlie Bronson eyes, but not the like killer Charlie Bronson, the mustache guy. They both
Yeah.
had mustaches.
Oh come on! At least Charles Bronson was cool.
Both of them were cool.
Still need to watch that movie. I know Tom Hardy's in it.
No, I'm not talking about that Charles Bronson. I'm talking about actual like Death Wish Charles Bronson.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, fuck, those movies were awesome.
Yeah, and he was also
Yeah.
like he had the head of like a 70-year-old with the body of like he's a better body than I do now.
Actually, here's something fun for you guys. You know that gun that Charles Bronson was using throughout Death Wish?
Oh, are we on?
Yeah, we are on.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yep.
God damn.
Okay, so
I would be talking about.
Where you're always talking about serial killers, dude.
we
It's
were
gonna
already.
take 5 milliseconds until you're gonna have a whole lesson about the Soviet Union.
Dude, for perspective, this stream started out with me telling Grand that Washington's two big things are meth and heroin
Yeah, and me saying that Germany is dead.
because they're getting rid of
Culturally.
Oktoberfest.
Probably, yeah.
I
I can
thought
see it happening. Yeah.
I thought Oktoberfest was like worldwide. I didn't know it was specific to Germany. We have Oktoberfest over here. down by the
Dude,
docks.
your Oktoberfest is more German than that one here. Like,
Dude, Ireland, every day is Oktoberfest.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
what we finna discuss, boys?
Well, okay, so this was what prompted this stream was that was two things. One, I wanted to talk with Grand about the last video he made, which Matt has seen part of. Karl, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't even know what you're talking about.
I believe it was something that went to the effect of single issues to comics now unaffordable. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, bad one. Yeah. Yeah, single issues are unaffordable. I stand by that 100%.
And I actually told Grand, it is rare that we find someone who is as forward thinking as you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that gave me a lot to think about, especially considering that Matt and I are actually we're still kind of working within the single issue market because it's all we've got to work with at the moment.
Yeah.
But we are trying, and we do not want, on the one hand, we don't want the single issue market going under because that's our books.
That's your bread and butter, right?
That's our book's livelihood for one.
Yeah,
But at the same time, we also recognize that the industry is changing and we need to adapt. And so we're trying to. I was bringing you on here so we can bounce ideas.
I get it. First of all, like, thanks, man. Like, thank you that you see me as sort of a guy who are worth listening to when it comes to that aspect. Yeah, you're the host. You shoot the ideas first, King.
Yeah. Well. First off, like, for one, I mean, it's just like anyone who's got even so much as a single brain cell has to recognize that the comics industry is changing drastically.
Yeah.
Like, the old way of doing things, it's dying. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can deny that. In fact, I think Tank has actually said that he sees Diamond going under.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. You know, comics are in fact changing. The Western comics, that is.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that's happening right now should have happened literally half a century ago, like 50 years ago. Because you just do not get that much value. You know, when you look at manga, I apologize for being a weep. Karl is gonna beat me up for this off stream, but I have to bring up manga because that's your main competitor.
Matt and I are technically weebs too.
Yeah, based.
Hey,
we're
I'm
under.
Asian.
Oh, you're Asian?
Yeah, I'm not a weeb because I'm Asian.
I told you, Grand, I wasn't kidding when I said we had a token yellow man on stream.
Bro, one thing you will learn is people go over my head easily. Yeah. May I ask where you're from? From Asia?
Vietnam.
Vietnam?
Yep.
Oh, damn, that's where my grandma died, you dig? No, I'm kidding.
Hey, if it helps, my grandfather was on the other side. That's why my family's here.
Ah, based. Man, they should have left Nam alone, but that's just, on the side. Anyways, comic books. Yeah, man, like, the price for comics, for single issues, that is, has been increasing. Like, I don't know how much it was. Karl, how much was a single issue in the 90s?
I don't know.
I think
wait. I always like to bring this up because Punisher Warzone, I have them right here. And I know that the first issue, Punisher Warzone.
Give me that price, Karl. Give me that price, Karl. I'm going to adjust for inflation.
Oh, yeah, I got some 90s issue on here. So
the first issue, which was like, it was fold out cardstock cover with a cut in the cover, like a cutout. So it's pretty much like it has two covers, the main cover and then a cardstock cover. It's printed on every single side, even on the cardstock. The cardstock is embossed. It was $2.25.
Yeah, I got an issue. It's the Punisher War Journal, 42 from May. Still has the Comics Code of Authority thing on it. Like less than $2. I have.
What's the
Yeah,
Right,
all
what's the
the
date on-
regular ones are 175.
Do you guys have the print date for those? I want to do an inflation adjustment.
Yeah, it should be on the inside. The year should be on the inside.
Yeah, it's on the, let me pull it down. It's like hanging on
1992.
my wall.
In 1992, and Karl, you said that issue of Punisher Warzone was what, $1.75?
Yeah. Yeah, the
All right.
regular ones are 175.
Okay, so calculating for inflation, that's holy shit, that's 317 in 2019.
Yeah, like you see something like what's Marvel charging nowadays?
They're almost they're getting dangerously close to the $5 mark.
Yeah, exactly. And how much, like, what do you get for it?
About on average 22 pages. 22 pages of actual comic, and I think like what, half a dozen pages of ads.
Dude,
I
like,
remember when a paperback novel was $5.
yeah, it just can't be that you like open up a mod, like you open a Tom King book, right? You are charged $3 and the ads are included, and y'all see that everybody hates it, but nobody talks about it ever. You know how DC Comics single issues have like that whole like 1-page ad for Snickers, and it's a comic book strip. That is the best part of the book. Like the ad is the best part about the best writing. You know, Batman at least beats up somebody, or you know, does something that makes sense in a context instead of just simping over women and slitting his wrists.
Speaking of which, Tom King posted on Twitter that Batman 69 was out. I gave, let's just say I might have taught Tom a lesson about being careful what you tweet. I'm gonna post this in the chat.
Oh boy.
Like, I didn't even know Batman 42 was out, dude, and that's hanging on my wall. Like that's how bad these single issues like thing is, because Marvel is charging as much as a whole manga volume.
Yeah, and I am not gonna disagree with you there. Here, that if you're just comparing just sheer volume of content, you are getting more out of your purchase with a single volume of manga than you will for a single issue of any given well, I don't want to say any given Western comic. I will just say
any given Western comic.
Then you would say for a big 2 comic.
I would still say any given Western comic, just because of how much more content you get.
It's just that I want to control for exceptions to the rule is all.
Yeah, well,
like,
I mean, like, this is the thing. You're talking about like a craft. You're talking about an art.
Yeah.
Not necessarily any way to compare any other like copy, like any issue from anywhere. You know, once you talk about the same craft, there's no real. People are always going to pay a different price for it. It's always going to mean a certain thing to different people. I really think that the only reason why Marvel or DC is surviving is because there's like a level of OCD collectors that just have to buy everything.
Yes.
Honestly, especially with the number ones.
Yeah, I seriously believe that. And these books are definitely, I notice over here more in bookstores, normal bookstores, news agents and stuff. They're getting the trades and the graphic novels or whatever. But that's true, different distribution.
You know, how much familiarity do you guys have with the bande dessinée market? That would be.
I mean, I know it because I like that stuff, but it's not something that's relevant to like Ireland.
I didn't get it. Like, what did you say?
Bande dessinée. That's Franco-Belgian comics, Grand.
Yeah, you have
No
meta
idea.
barons and your humanoids, your meta barons, your Moebius, all that stuff.
Yeah,
which is like, look, that's a great model, right? Like,
yeah,
even though some of them can be late and whatever, that's a cool model. Like these big ass albums, like 40 to 60 pages, maybe 2 a year. It's a big chapter. The art is super high quality. The writing is what the writing is, because there's any number of ways to write a comic to make it good or bad.
Yeah.
And people are into it, and getting a like this nice little bullet of the entire story from like creative teams that are quality controlled and dedicated to it, you know.
Yeah, one of
Which is,
yeah, like I've even heard. I think it was from Razor. I think I heard from Razor Fist that out in like France and Belgium, they got comic shops that are 2 stories high.
Yeah.
well, I think there's definitely, maybe there's more of an appreciation of the art. The art style is always different. Over in the US style is more based on inks, when the European style has always been more based on colors. And so it always leans towards these watercolory sort of, painted books. And so
Somehow
there's definitely a level where people are going to pay more for the entire experience, like
that I agree with. Yeah.
And especially me, like I'll pick up books, and I do pick up books that I know I will never read. Like I'll look at one god awful word balloon in it, and I go, okay, I can never read this, but I can look through this.
Yeah.
Like I'll never be able to actually sit down and get into it and enjoy it, but I can look at this art. I can open it up when I'm having a coffee, and I can look at it, and I'm going to enjoy it. Now, if they did like an artist edition where they got rid of all the speech bubbles and it was just in black and white, I'd be like, sweet, But and I'd pay more for that. But there is like a difference between a market between bande dessinée and like your X-Men,
Yeah, and that's that is the big rub. What were you gonna say?
I think that there needs to be like a like people are always want to sort of reboot the universes within these characters, but there's almost like there needs to be a reboot of the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. You are most definitely right about that.
When I look at X-Men now, like X-Men to me, and I think to most people, X-Men is the 90s blue and yellow Jim Lee. Like that's X-Men. They fit in that world. Their enemies, the colors. It's classic.
Dude, that was the model they basically used for the X-Men cartoon back in the day.
Yeah. But people know those. Like I had the cartoon way before. I've only recently got back into those, like read that specific era. I knew the cartoon as like a kid, but that to me is burnt in my head, and it's like that's the little space that the X-Men own. And right now in the landscape of comics, it's like there's nothing in that space. Not even the X-Men are in that space.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what you need to reboot, is like just shift it back into that space,
I mean, if you look at what the comics that are released every single week actually are, I think somebody on Twitter like calculated it. I think 37% are just variant covers that Marvel is publishing.
They publish an ungodly amount of variant covers.
Yeah, see, that's what Karl said about OCD collectors. It's like they're certainly not targeting investors, because investors, if they have a brain, they will know that this current era of comics, when like the industry collapses, everybody will look at this current industry, standard, this current industry state, and they will see it as like the void century. Like nothing happened. Everything is filler.
God. My brain is starting to put 2 and 2 together. They're going back to what they did back in the 90s. They're not targeting. They're targeting speculators.
Yeah, speculators maybe 30%. OCD collectors, I would say 60%, and people with no brain, like I don't know. The last 10% is just people that just don't want their childhood in that special place. Comic books, they just don't want that feeling to die. They're chasing that first high that they had when comics actually meant something, and it's just not there. They're basically like the Washington meth heads, and shooting up garbage, just chasing that first original high when somebody sold them something good. That's what they're chasing, and it's not happening. And what Karl said about the comic industry needing a reboot. If it were up to me, like the comic book industry can't crash enough. It will crash. They're doing everything. Marvel is doing everything that they did in the 90s, and then they crashed. They went bankrupt.
Nearly went bankrupt.
Yeah, I guess we have to make comics actually mean something again.
Yeah.
Because right now, comics are just merchandise for movies. It's unaffordable merchandise at that. And it's like, at least you can like show off some 50-cent cheap trinket from China that's like a keychain or something.
Mhm.
At least you can like have that around for years. It's gonna be your companion for years. Single issues, like you look like an autist if you read them in public with like backed and boarded. Like if you read reading a manga in public, that's goat. Like if you do that, you got drip. If you read a trade paperback, you got to be buff. It's like buff people can get away with they can get away with everything. If you read a single issue and like a Tom King single issue in public, if you read that, it's like you deserve to be shot. Like you deserve to just that's where people like me come in who will rip you off, who will like rob you of everything because you do not have any sense of integrity or honor. God bless. Sorry for my little rant there.
For the record, I would not trust Tom King as far as I could throw him, being that he's a former CIA spook.
Can I say something about that that's been on my mind for like the past week? Like literally.
What?
I've been thinking about this for like literally today at work. Imagine you're a kid in the Middle East and like your whole family has been through trouble because the CIA has like dethroned the government, for the petrodollar. And you turn to comics. Batman is your favorite character.
Oh, Lord.
I see where this is going.
And like Batman is the symbol of strength, of like hope. Your whole house is ashes because the CIA has funded rebels for the government, or like to the government. And you go to the comic book store in a bunker somewhere that's also in ashes, and you pick up a modern day Tom King written Batman book, and now you see the CIA taking even that away, like that bit of escapism. That's where terrorists are breeded. Like this is where ISIS is actually breeded.
Brad, are you suggesting that Tom King's whole career in comics is a CIA psyop?
I am saying Tom King is. I'm not saying he's directly responsible for 9/11. But if time machines happened, and that little kid from the Middle East that got destroyed by the CIA, meddling with foreign policies in the first place, and then they even take that bit of sweet spot, that bit of escapism from him, by making Batman a simp. I would say maybe such a kid would feel inclined to go back in time. And cause a bra moment.
I think Zach keeps thinking that Tom King's whole career is him trying to.
He was the janitor, dude.
Yeah, no, he was basically a computer a code monkey. He was analyzing. He was an analyst. He didn't do any of the creepy shit that the CIA does.
It's like, I've been in the CIA. Like he ain't like, okay, cool. You dethrone foreign governments. Dope. That's dope, dude. That's dope. You served the petrodollar. Thanks for your service.
not just that. You may or may not have arrested American citizens for things they may or may not have done.
Bro, the CIA has tried assassination attempts on Fidel Castro. That were like literally like out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon, like with exploding cigars.
Oh, I know that. Like that's
and like dude, hundreds. Like how can anybody have respect for the CIA, dude?
Dude, the CIA has. I've heard things that the CIA has gotten into shit that makes what the KGB and the SS did look kind by comparison.
Bro, at least Mossad is cool. Mossad is hella brutal, but at least they're efficient.
Ugh, I get.
The CIA is just.
Let's not go there, please.
Bro, I'm 50% Ashkenazi. I can go there. Don't worry. You got the license.
It's just that when Israel, it's just that Israel's that thing that it's that one subject you're not allowed to have opinions on.
Hey guys,
What?
let's not get put on any lists today.
Yes. I've already lost my streaming privileges. I've lost my streaming privileges once already.
I'm not talking about that kind of list.
Oh, that lit. Oh yeah, also that. He's also right about that. Okay, but back to comics.
Yeah, based. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry
Okay.
for,
So
sorry for going off of rails there.
to bring it back to comics, though, I mean, like it does go without saying that at least in the North American market, it's changing. You do have good models with the bande dessinée market and manga, but the rub is those are two different markets with different audiences and different ways of doing things, and you can't exactly adapt them to North America.
Yeah, but it's also like the American audience has been dying, and there's been no attempt to actually cultivate any new ones.
This is true.
If you look at Marvel, it's like, well, are the true art fans, the bande dessinée people, are they going to go over there?
Why would they?
For a lot of this stuff, like the people who are buying for the art, are they going to go over there? Or what about when DC do an event and every in between issue is a fill-in of a completely different artist? Are they going to go in for that? They don't respect that. So it's like this is I'm sort of lone in nearly everything I do on this. I don't really like working too much with people on projects or anything. And so for me, it's like I just want to monetize me. If I can get people who are gonna overpay for something that I want to do, fine. I'm like those other guys, if they're not trying to do that, then that's their fault. I'm not gonna try help them.
I would never try joining the comic book industry. In this current state, you need to be your own. You need to build your own industry. Think about what Karl said this, like the American comic book scene is dying. And I say this knowing well that some simp on Twitter is gonna take this and say, "Oh, but Captain Marvel, that movie did numbers." The movies and the comic books are a completely different thing. Here's what's comic book culture, right? It's comic conventions, it's comic book movies, it's comic book trinkets created in China and other merchandise. Comic books are not a part of that.
They're glorified ads at best.
There are glorified. No, they're not glorified at all. They're just merchandise for the movies. The existence of a comic book pro at the big two is such. They're a tax write-off. They're a tax write-off for the movies for some big guy in Hollywood. That's what they exist for. And that's what comic books are. They're write-offs, and they're like pocket change. They're pocket change income. It's nothing significant for these people because Aquaman didn't even convert 1%. Like I think it's even less than 0.5% to the comic book sales.
Yeah, that is like.
And that's single issues, and single issues are way higher, despite being trash. They're way higher than like graphic novels.
They pour so much money into these movies, and like
because they make movies, but they make money. Comic books do not make money.
Yeah, look, hey, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. Okay, I'm not going to argue that. Of course, like there's also the rub that these comic book movies, they're currently a trend, and the thing with trends is they go out of style sooner or later. And I think we're nearing the point where people are just about to get ready to are getting sick of them. And tastes are about to change. And so
I think that's when I'm talking about reboot. Like that's one of the things that comics need is like people need to have like reform their idea of what a comic is for the current day.
One thing I think I don't know how much you guys watch Zach, but he did put out one video that I think did put a lot in perspective for me, especially with current comic book writers. He said like he was going through a bunch of Image comics, and he described most of them as Netflix, please option my TV show. Like these are being written by people who have no passion for the medium. And they want to work in TV or film. They can't get in, and this is the only way they can do it.
Yeah,
Carl
there's
said
also
this
like
like
there's
so many
no
times.
commitment to the actual book. There's no commitment to the story. Half of these things I look at, these new books coming out. There's one that was put out called, what was it? Why We Fight or something, like No One Left to Fight. And it was one of those stereotypical, everyone has pink hair, everyone's neon colored.
Mhm.
There's no, like, it's funny because I grayscaled the pic because I wanted to see if there was any value actually in the colors, and there was no values in the colors, and so I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a good metaphor for it. There's no value to this whatsoever. And those books are like, there's just this cognitive dissonance with all of them. They're not honest about what they're selling, right? You look
Yeah,
at old school X-Men covers, you look at any manga, they're all honest in what they're selling. You look at some of the indie books that are coming out, they're all honest in what they're selling. Like, when I'm selling Deathsworn, I'm completely honest in what I'm selling.
That is what
Like,
that's what I appreciate most about Deathsworn, because like I haven't read the book and I can just tell just by looking at it, you're completely 100% sincere about it. You are not faking anything about that book.
that's
no,
ridiculous.
and it's not like I'm trying to raise it to like some high art or whatever. Like for me, the art in it is getting someone to, page 20 and having them ask me when's the next issue. Like,
Yeah,
that's the art for me. That's
Yeah,
that's
dude.
the literal craft. Like, comics are not an art, right? So you go and you look at a painting, right? And anyone can if you go to art school, there's no objectivity to art. It's being completely driven out of the arts. That's why art schools are like, anyone goes to art school is a failure. And
Mhm.
so these
Well, they're a
they
failure because they're
they
well, they're a failure because they go into debt for one.
yeah, well, everything about it is about just it's what you can take from it or what bullshit you can glean from it, right? Comics aren't like that because there's actually a goal to an end of a comic. And not only that, right? Because there's a publication method that implies that this is going to continue if it's successful, right?
Mhm.
So that means that it's not necessarily an art, because if you get to the end of it and it's shit, then it's failed.
Mhm.
But not only that, there's also a craft in how you get through it. So like carpentry is not an art, it's a craft, right? If you're gonna make a chair, you can make a nice chair. If I can't sit in it, I'm gonna fucking burn it.
That's a
And
good point.
that's what people have been doing with comics. They fucking get the comic, they go, this isn't the comic, and they burn it.
Yeah.
It's not like there's this weird movement towards and one of the things I noticed when I went to art college, and you see that the current pros use this a lot, and the companies use this a lot for like talent, is that I'm going in there, and I mean, when I went in, I just turned 18, and there's 40-year-olds, and it's like I'm
Jeez.
I'm like 40-year-olds with kids, and I'm like, okay, no, like even though this was like back then, like I'm 21 now, so whatever that is, like 4 years or whatever. So I'm kicking these guys' ass. Like, I can draw straight from my head. I have style. I've everything I sort of need. I still need a lot of work and fixing to get to like current Deathsworn place.
Yeah.
But I was kicking these guys' asses, and that has to be removed from like testing, from how teachers grade your art. That all has to be removed. So there's no objectivity. It's all just about ticking the box and making sure you go to your notebook, and that's exactly how these current books are put out. It's like, well, give this person a chance. Well, give that person a chance. Well, tick off the boxes that allow this person to work, but don't judge them objectively.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, like I didn't hire Victor because he was or Changeling because he was Mexican. I hired him because I thought his style fit the book's the aesthetic for what I wanted for the book. I didn't I didn't hire Ginger to color it because she's a woman. I hired her because I thought she was able to get at the atmosphere here for the book, and it again could and had a good command of making and was able to make Victor's line art just pop out. And for the record, I took a chance on both of them, and it paid off so far. But it never once occurred to me, oh, I'm hiring a Mexican, I'm hiring a woman. No, I'm hiring two people whom I think have talent and fit my vision.
I don't even think that's the problem. Like, I mean, Carl said this. Comics no matter how, let's say these people are an absolute heat pack, right? Let's say they are great. Let's say they're hella talented. Comics still don't matter. Comics still are just a stepping stone for movies or Netflix.
Yeah, and that's like I said, that was something that Zach used to describe a lot of the Image books he was running through. Netflix, please option my script. It's like you couldn't get your foot in the door out in Hollywood, so you came over so you dumped your idea out into comics and hoped that maybe, just maybe, you'd get enough press that that Netflix senpai might notice you.
I actually think that comics are the stepping stone. Like they're where you go to Hollywood. You know, back then you would move to Hollywood and burn through all your, parents' money.
Hey, back
Now,
then you'd have to move to New York to do comics. Like that's not
yeah,
that
but
recently. Like
no. I
people
mean,
have to
like
move
to
to
get
New
into
York.
movies, you had to move to Hollywood, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but I'm implying the same thing about the importance of comics back in the day. Like
Yeah.
those guys that were making those books, until the British invasion, like
Dude,
those guys,
even the
like,
original Image guys moved out to New York, I think.
yeah. Well, they just weren't skilled in business at all, so it was always going to crash. I think Jim Lee bought the building that he wanted to rent an office out of instead of just renting the office. So they were doomed from the start. But
Oh yeah,
back,
well,
like, it wasn't too long ago where people literally were like, I have to move to New York and go into the offices, go into Marvel's offices and try get more portfolio sent around and try talk to some editors. Like, it was a big deal. And now it's like,
why?
I mean, like, look, I take on shit work. I take on scrubby work. I take on work that I beg the people not to put my name on it.
I mean, like, why would I want to why would I want to move to New York when I can just work on my comic right from Tacoma?
No, but I'm saying that the people who were making these books, like, they took that chance. Like,
They were
they are the
committed.
guys
It
who were
meant something,
these guys were the people who were so hardcore that they were like, I'm going to uproot my life. I'm going to change how I live. I'm going to rent a shitty apartment where I nearly get stabbed by some junkie in downtown, like some fucking horrible area in New York. I'm going to walk into the offices, gonna try get past the security to get my portfolio in. Like, that was the makeup of a lot of pros at a certain point,
Yeah.
And now it's like you're not gonna get that commitment. You're not gonna get that love for it. You're not gonna get that because they're not, one, people aren't looking for those people, right? Because those people weren't even being looked for at the beginning. Those people were forcing their way in. And two, because there's a whole new there's this, because of the state of geek culture, which I can't wait for it to die. There's this whole new set of eyes that are not looking at comics, but looking at these intellectual properties. And so if you can, instead of selling them the product, sell them on the morality of the product, and then that's what spun it off. That's what everyone talks about when they talk about, oh, it gets tons of hits on Tumblr, but it doesn't translate into sale. Yeah, well, they're trying to sell it based on morality, and so they've shifted, like, the people, the editors, the people working in these big two places, mainly Marvel. I don't see a lot of bullshit from DC.
I'm not
They
gonna.
they have completely shifted. They don't want that person who's like nearly stabbing a security guard in the neck to show, like, John Buscema his portfolio, just to get it ripped apart. Like, they're not looking for those guys no more.
I'm not gonna disagree with you, Carl, that we've kind of lost people who are with that level of commitment. But on the one hand, right when the internet became a thing, I feel like that was just gonna inevitably happen.
No, but they're still, look, I'm one of those guys. Like, like,
Yeah,
I'm
like
one of
he's
those guys.
drawing from
The internet allows for a different form of that to happen.
Yeah, let me rephrase that.
And there are still those guys, but it's like, I don't need to go to them. I don't want necessarily to go to them right now. Like, I mean, if I think of the comic book industry now as someone who's, like, like, right now in my state of my career, I have to sort of my biggest like economy that I can use to spend to get somewhere as youth, right? And that's the best thing I need, because I don't need to be worrying about this shit when I'm 30. So like I have the ability now to build my own industry, my own actual career separate from that I can maintain and keep running and evolve and grow along with me. I can actually monetize my art, which is me. And so for me, it's like I look at I'm like, do I submit to the bootlicking and, you know, keep submitting crappy Daredevil pages until someone looks at me, or do I build my own thing that I can keep building and spinning off from and evolving? Because when I look at the idea of a career in mainstream comics, it's like you're in for 20 years.
It's almost like a slur.
You're in for 20 years, and then you get kicked out the second you're not your style isn't popular or whatever, and then you pray that you worked on a decent issue of Batman once, because then you can coast on signing that at conventions for like pocket money. And it's like, okay, I don't that's not something that's good to aim for, because it's not actually thinking about the back end of my life when I'm really going to need to be dependent.
You know, just say, if I can just say something about that, like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and building your own thing.
That's Karl.
I'm just gonna say, as a fellow Irishman, that is a very Irish attitude.
That's what he's instilling in me too. I mean, you know, before I ever talked with Karl in DMs, I knew I was gonna, you know, create my own comic book industry, because I saw that without sounding pretentious, I saw the signs of the times and like how things were moving and how just, you know, Japan and manga is just dominating the West. Like it's not even a competition. It's like Usain Bolt, like sprinting against a wheelchair guy. It's basically Japan against the West. And, you know, there was one thing I wanted to say, but I lost it. But another thing I really want to say is, you know, when I said comics don't matter, I mean that in the sense of, you know, what they instill in you too. I grew up reading Naruto. I was a weeb before I was a comic book reader. You know, Naruto, that is like, you know, he had a bad childhood, lonely, no friends, no parents, all that. You know, people will read that and they will vibe with him and they will feel with him, because, you know, there are kids out there that really felt that, you know, that really do live like that.
Yeah, you know,
now Naruto.
I was gonna say I'm not the biggest Naruto fan, but it's something that has value, because because when you get right down to it, what the message of Naruto is, have a dream and don't give up on it.
Yeah, that's like the whole thing of shonen manga, really. And when you look at, like, what's a thing that a Tom King comic has instilled in you?
I haven't even read it. I couldn't even. You couldn't. Let me put it this way, Grant. You could point a gun at my head, and I wouldn't read a Tom King book.
No, you would. But you wouldn't have a good time.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You're actually hitting on that, and it's part of this is the sort of the faux intellectualism that runs through comics today, and especially with Tom King. So I remember I watched a Batman panel. It was like Tom King, Shaun Murphy, Frank Miller, and some other dude. That didn't matter and won't matter. But you know, I mean, Frank Miller matters because Frank Miller is Frank Miller, and Shaun Murphy matters because he's Shaun Murphy, and Tom King matters because he's so awful. And in the panel, someone brought on the Superman, and Tom King said, I just don't get Superman. Like you know, he has no motivation. And it's like, no, dude, he has like, it's like, to do something decent for your fellow man is the motivation of every single person ever, like that has ever existed. It's everything. It's the rule of society is that when it comes down to it, the person standing next to you might help you and will help you in a tiny way. Like that's what Superman is, and it's this level of deconstructionism, this faux intellectual comic book writer that has come in, that's been spurred on by all these filled cuff pussy writers, Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore and all that, this bullshit, where it's like, You don't, and I have the same trouble with Sean Gordon Murphy. Sean Gordon Murphy is said that his goal is to, you know, reduce these big political ideas down into a story. And then I look at like some of the bubbles in White Knight, and I'm like, you didn't do a good job reducing shit. Like, get out of the way of this. Like, there's a story here. And White Knight was it was another one of these books where it was pretty dishonest in how it was being sold. I had no feeling going into it. I just knew it was a Sean Gordon book. When I look at the new one with Azrael, it's like, oh, this is gonna be action. This is gonna be cool. This is the
please
new
don't make it like
comic,
I loved White Knight, but like,
can I just say that Azrael cover, that is too good for a comic book. That belongs in an art gallery.
bro, I really want to have that on my wall, dude. Sean Murphy is a good dude.
You'll never afford that.
Nah, I mean, like, you know,
is
printed at a Yugoslavian back alley shop, of course, and not an
you
original, dude.
You could get some like high quality
Prints,
scans from
Yeah.
shady owner. But no, like there's this thing where they don't want to get out of, and I always say with Tom King, especially him, it's really easy to tell where he thinks the art lies in his book, you know, because he doesn't actually think that the art lies in the story or the engagement or trying to engross your reader into this roller coaster, you know. With him, it's like the art for him is constantly having a character repeat like.
Yeah.
It's like that's when he's coming out writing that, he's going, oh yeah, that's how he's a punk, you know, that's how he's bringing art into this script. If he has background they like after every 2 words.
Who are overly impressed with themselves.
Yeah, get out of the way of the everything else in this whole thing is more important than your like weird bullshit idea about politics. Politics is dog shit. No one wants it, right? Like no one cares. It's basically irrelevant to the majority of people. And it's definitely in these stories, you know. And it's like stop taking my gods and scaling them down.
Yeah,
it's you scale them up. They're an ideal. I'm supposed to live in the shadow of them. Scale them up.
Yeah.
You know, make it epic. That's the new way. That's the new punk. That's the new, when I'm looking at all these books, it's like you scale everything down. You put Hawkeye in a t-shirt and slacks. You make him depressed and curse a lot. It's like, all right. It's like, that's nothing. That's horseshit. Hollywood was doing that for 20 years before comics came along. Try to get back in game. So look at the current state and see what's counter it.
Yeah,
and do that.
That comment about Hawkeye reminds me of this one thing that Frank Miller said on a. I recommend you guys look this up if you ever get the time. It's a documentary about Daredevil creators called Men Without Fear. Get the Frank part, and he talks about like how what he hated like how comic books were portrayed, right, like romance. He wanted, like he said, like, is there anything more insulting than seeing Superman in a bed with a girl naked and he's just all of a sudden just another guy? And he's saying, like, these are people who bring down buildings with their passions. Like, their love should be automatic. And that's what he wanted to do with the Elektra storyline. He wanted to give Daredevil a romance that was worthy of
that idea has been instilled in me since I was a kid, because that documentary is actually it was a bonus feature for the Daredevil DVD.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was always into costumes. That was one of the things I was going to do. If I didn't do illustration, I was going to go on to do model making, because I always liked watching monster movies for the costumes and all that shit. So I was always like, I watched the second disc before I watched the first disc. I always watched bonus features, you know? And that was and I remember watching that like all the time when I was a kid, because that Stan Lee, I had Gil Kane, I even had Joe Q and Kevin Smith on it. That was I think he even had like Bendis on it. But Frank Miller, he said that thing where they bring down buildings with their passion. And Frank has always been like that. I remember even talking to Grant about this. I mean, the death scene between Frank Miller and Bullseye.
Elektra?
Yeah, Elektra and Bullseye, sorry.
Yeah.
I said Frank Miller as Bullseye. I killed Frank Miller.
Thank God he's still alive. Watching this, God bless.
That scene's still burned inside my brain. Like, that is so iconic.
Yeah, well, because when Frank did it, it's a murder rape. Bullseye rapes Elektra. Now, yeah, if you read the panels, if you read what Frank is saying, right? Hawk Bullseye takes her sai or whatever it's called, sai, right?
It's a side.
He stabs her, right? The sai goes through her stomach, goes out through her back, but it doesn't go through her clothing. And it's just real. If you look at the imagery, it's just real evocative imagery. That the reason why it's powerful is because Frank knew how to take these ideas and dilute them and put them through to really power these images, you know. And that's exactly what he did. And he says it out straight. He goes, that was a murder rape scene I wrote. Bullseye never rapes her, but if you look at the imagery, you look at what Frank is trying to say, and you look at how powerful it is there. It's all there. It's there in the background, powering it. And it was like Frank knew how to do that shit. And you talk about bringing down buildings with their passion. You know, that was in that Holy Terror book. I mean, that's in that book there. You know, he's showing the Batwoman and Catwoman like rip-off characters dancing along the rooftops, you know, like that's what these characters are. You know, when Peter Parker, you know, puts on the black suit and he steps out on Mary Jane and he's going around on the rooftops at night with Black Cat, it's like he's cheating on Mary Jane, you know, like he's cheating on Spider-Man. He's, you know, that's what these things are there to say. Make them epic, scale them up, don't scale them down, scale them up.
Yeah, everything is scaled. And like, if you think about it, comic books right now, and it's been like that since 2016, and it will be until it crashes. You know, it's like, imagine having sex with a girl, but you close your eyes the whole time. It's just, you know, you wear one of these 50-inch thick condoms. Like you got like, it's just hand holding, just missionary, and like no kissing with tongue. That's what Western comic books are right now. It's just the least risky thing. And back then, like, you know, that Elektra death scene, that's hella ballsy, dude. Comics aren't ballsy anymore.
Yeah. Here's another thing Frank said in that same documentary. I got into comics to make them more like movies. I've stayed in comics to make them less so.
Yeah.
I actually think that I genuinely think that comics should do their comics more like the movies. And let me explain what I mean by that. You know, movies are actually marketed. Movies are a whole product, right? You go to see a movie and you see like A to B storyline. You get like, I don't know, 1.5 in an hour.
Couple hours.
1 hour and a half
Say
entertainment out of it. You know, you have the whole thing start to finish. You know, single issues are not that. And, you know, that's like full circle with what we said at the beginning. Comic books, single issue comic books, that is, are just not a good product. They should be free previews, which should be, you know, brought to the LCS at the expense of the publisher. It should be like free promo material, essentially, you know. And then they should do like, I don't know, cut like 70% of releases of comics and just focus on creating blockbusters, you know, focus on creating blockbusters like in the movies. Actually do like, you know, ads for them, you know, show them on, I don't know, in front of like,
yeah,
you know,
but here's another thing that like actually, like, I think one of the things that hurts comics is that, unlike movies, you know, movies, everything on the back end of making a movie gets ramped up because so much goes into making a movie.
I know.
And not a lot goes into making a comic. I mean, there's a lot of time and there's a lot of stress, and, you know, artists have to work years to try to put out something that's even you can consider selling for, you know, $1.25, let alone $5. So I think, you know, that's one of those things that it only comes if these guys are forking out the cash at the front end of it, you know.
Yeah,
and you see that with stuff like Shaun Murphy or whatever. But when you say like a full issue should be a teaser, it's like, you should not be able to sell like 60 to 100 pages based on 20 pages and actually how it reads. Like, if you do it right and it's a product that's worth buying, You should be able to sell it on 5 pages.
Yeah, sure, of course. But you get the dimensions I'm talking about, right?
Elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah. I've always wondered ever since the Avengers came out why they haven't done like a movie line of books, like an
Yeah.
MCU universe comic.
They
Yeah,
have,
exactly. That's what I mean. And that,
You can
in my opinion, sorry, go ahead.
gonna say they've made like tie-in books to the movies, but they're very non-committal with them.
Well,
Yeah,
you're
they're
right.
hacked. Even the preludes, they're hacks. Those books are fucking made for idiots. Those books are made for like they don't even sell those. I don't know who's buying those books.
I
You
wouldn't
can buy those books.
average-
I would use
the average
use
movie
that
goer.
book to line a hamster cage with.
Yeah, those tie-in garbage books where it's all like, oh, that shit's awful. And they always like to pretend that like they have some scoop as if they're working with the movie producers, but it's like it's no.
One of the
These
most
guys are just shoveling this out because it might get put in the back of a trade that gets put into some news agents or some bookstore where it can actually reach an audience that isn't involved in comics.
I would think one of the most insulting examples of that was a couple Guardians of the Galaxy tie-ins, which were written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. And the cherry on top of this shit Sunday was that was the last time those two guys ever worked on anything Guardians of the Galaxy related, because these guys, they are more or less credited with making Guardians of the Galaxy, the comic, what it was.
Yeah.
Like, they took
You always see that. You always see like great writers and big titans and their names popping up on bullshit. Like Fabian Nicieza or whatever his name, however you pronounce it. He does all that bullshit. He doesn't do any big books or good books.
I think they are trying to do that with the Jonathan Hickman run of the Avengers, where they were trying to put the characters more into the movie universe and MCU costumes, such as when Captain America changes his costume to a more MCU friendly, MCU type costume.
Yeah, but it's like I always thought if they can't do like X-Men in the movies, like why can't they say, well, we're just gonna set an X-Men book in the MCU and do a comic book like that? I thought like I've always wondered that since the Avengers came out. I think that's a cool idea you can play with. Maybe it's rights issue as hell to actually do that.
Mhm.
But I don't see why, because it'd be covered under the publishing. I don't know. Because they wouldn't be able to draw on the likeness or anything.
Fuck, who knows? It's just like I think what kind of goes without saying, the people who are running Marvel now, they have no idea what they're doing. Like it's just like I think the best way we can sort of sum up their business practice is they are throwing everything at the wall and they are trying to find out what sticks.
I think
You know what? I'm gonna name the true enemy. It's the boomers. I'm seriously like, comics are a run. I mean, those guys at Disney, those boomers in Armani suits, those investors. Do you think they ever read a comic book in their life, dude?
Yup. He is the man is correct.
And even then, like, let's say, the CEO of Marvel that has like the executive power. Let's say he's like a big, like, let's say he knows about comics. He's still running. You can't run a business in 2019 the way you did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Much less so than in the 90s, in the 80s. In the
Well,
60s.
have you seen any of these actual Marvel produced shows, like these online things? Like, I don't know what there is with this disconnect between these corporations and people. It's almost like or these game launches where they have these hosts that host a live game launch, and like it's like there's no connection between the audience and these.
Can we please, like, Carl? Can we please like parody that at one point in the future?
Can we just
Well, Red Letter Media already did it.
those current
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
those cartoons that Marvel is producing right now, those are just like
It's not even the cartoons, it's what they're using for social media marketing purposes. It's like, oh, it's the Comic-Con. What? It's the Comic-Con. Oh, we gotta go there.
Oh my god, that was just like
Bro, I'm gonna Like,
Look, here's the thing, dude. It's always come back to this thing for Todd McFarlane. Make it sexy.
yeah,
That's all you have to do.
that comes back to my point where it's modern comics are like, missionary sex, hand holding lights off, and afterwards you use hand sanitizer.
Well, I've always thought about that about the interiors. I always felt that there's something so unfulfilling about a lot of modern comic books. It's like they're just edging you for fucking 4 hours and you get nothing at the end of it. There's no fulfillment between
Comics,
sort of characters, like the cyclical, like the character should always come around. There should always be an element to it. It should always be like Looney Tunes. Like you watch Looney Tunes and something minor would be set up at the beginning, and then it
Yeah.
plays like the ultimate the ultimate sort of end to it, and you never see it, but it's always just, you always get so fulfilled out of it. I don't get that from a lot of modern comic books. They tend to cheap out on the ending too. Like the big epic movie ending is always wrapped up too quickly because the writer probably spent like 6 pages of dialogue on bullshit like earlier.
Everything has been getting more hardcore, right? I mean, everybody is super like, political leanings have been getting more extreme, on the left and the right. Everything is just so much more hostile, except for Western comics. It's like Western comics are getting more and more sterile, whereas, for example, manga are getting ballsier and ballsier, and that's another thing where Western comics just can't compete. Is like I said, it's sterile. It's like you might as well just read Brave New World, because that's what Western comics are. It's sterile. There's no color. Comic pros are sexual predators.
Here's you almost make it sound like like this whole quote unquote indie boom is not going to save anything.
No, it has to be its own thing. It's not.
It will be.
Comics were supposed to change. They haven't. What have they done? What have they tried to do or change or bring in that was new? Like,
listen,
forever. They're still shipping the same books to addresses that they were shipping in like the 70s. Like nothing has changed. They haven't adapted to any medium.
Yeah, like when I think of how manga has evolved, dude,
they go like, oh, we're gonna make it digital. It's like, yeah, okay. So
nobody
again,
cares about digital.
Yeah, you load nothing into the upfront of it, and then you just upload the file. It's like, all right, well, that surely makes it special, Like
the only people I think who have really sort of tried to do anything new, like off the top of my head,
TKO.
I'm just gonna say this just because I am actually, because I know them and I'm biased, so I'm gonna feel a little biased towards them. I would say Brian and Trent with Rags and Cody with Jack Irons. Like you can see they're trying something at least unique, or at least you can tell these are ideas they had in their head. Then they just want to get them out.
I would say the real MVP of comic book creation is TKO. Yeah, like everything they've done. It's funny, dude. I've been thinking about, okay, so how can I in the future start a publisher that does comics right, that creates a pleasant experience for the customer. And then I scrolled on Twitter and I came across this publisher called TKO, and they're doing exactly everything that a comic that DC and Marvel should have been doing for 20 years now. They're doing everything right, and they're actually innovating, dude.
Can you elaborate on that? Because Matt and I, like, we're over at Wicked Publishing, and we're trying to find every way possible to make them grow. We get a vested interest in that, dude.
Okay, so one of the things TKO does, they've basically taken the next Netflix model, but without the Netflix bullshit. Like without doing like like, please buy my product, which they should do, like if I can, steal money out of Hollywood's pocket. If someone came to me and said, we want to make a Death Swarm or whatever, which isn't going to happen, but if anyone did, I'd sell it immediately, take that cash, put it straight into the book. I'd tell no one to go watch the movie because it's fucking, I don't want to be involved in it or have anything. I just want to take the money from them. but they don't have that, like, like all the books that I've seen come out of them seem pretty like they care about putting this story out, putting this
Yeah,
story
they
forward.
care, and like they
And
do
not only that, they
instant-
care, and they care in the we were talking about this back end of the book, like what do you do, which is one of the things, like a lot of the indie and the indie stuff and the Indiegogo stuff do. There's actual care to the back end, because there's like this, it's almost like the celebration is there's a finish line and everyone's engaged in it, and everyone's waiting for to get to this end, and there's this growth, and it keeps growing and building, and you can keep adding stuff to it, and that sort of is another level that's engaging people, because you're showing care in the back end. It's not just finished and you're sending it out. So TKO do like basically binge. They have trades, they release it on trades, but they also release the books singularly but all like together.
all at once.
You buy all the 5 of them at once, or you buy them all in one book. But they also come in like these sweet boxes that
special
are all
editions.
all the graphics on the boxes are also, they also line up to match. There's like actual care put into how it's being given to you. There's this back end of it where it's not just the same newspaper cartoons, just stuff.
It's like an experience for consumers, right? Like you open the special edition box, like you got them all there nicely, look at the art, it's great. The book,
well, that's the thing. It's like the medium is the message. That's like, I always say that about these issues, like the way I always try to make each issue of Death Swarm fulfilling. I always tell you Grant, because Grant doesn't, when he's telling me about his stories, he's always thinking of them in these like long, 100 issue thing. And I always say every 20 pages, it has to come full circle. Around every 20 pages, there has to be full circle. Each character has to change. You have to know where they're going, because you have to keep that momentum. You have to really try to drag the readers in on this roller coaster, because the first step of every reader is to put the book down. Like the default step, the default action for each reader is to not turn the page. So like you really have to take them by the collar and put them on this roller coaster. And there's tons of tricks I always take, like about not using certain things to ruin bringing these people on this story. But when these issues that are coming out now are clearly paced for a trade, like stuff in Marvel and stuff,
I was gonna say
there's no fulfillment. There's no of this 20 pages of a arc, of a fulfilling section of this story. And so
it's just a build up,
everything about it,
chapter 5,
but everything about the medium is the message. So you get a Marvel book, there's there's 20 pages or whatever, there's no fulfilling arc, there's no actual character dynamics shifting or changing to make you excited for the future. And then there's advertisements, double page advertisements in like every couple of pages. So it's like, okay, well, what does that tell you about the product? What if you just bought into here? What sort of reciprocity is that supposed to try help grow with a reader? So everything from TKO, from the care they take into different markets, from people that want the issues or people that want the trades, from putting in these boxes, from having this back end, from knowing that the entire issue, the entire story, the full every issue was worked on by the same creative team.
Hey, look,
they had a story going forward.
Tank finally popped in.
Who popped in?
Tank.
It's Tank.
Hey, Tank.
Tank, how you doing, King?
Okay,
so
good evening.
I'm ranting like a madman. You guys got me on something.
I'm just trying to figure out whether or not I'm having technical difficulties again, like last time, or every time these days with Hangouts acting up like shit.
Okay, so let's look at this. We got a half Vietnamese guy. We got a Slavic German, an Irishman, an Irish American.
It does seem like I have that, because I'm probably not hearing a lot of people talking.
And an Afrikaner.
Speaking of Afrikaner, I'm getting food.
What's South African cuisine?
Enjoy.
Man, I just realized that joke could like be interpreted differently. It was not my intention. I swear.
Could have been worse.
Technically, Tank is
much
African.
Worse. Rule of life: it can always get worse.
But yeah, we were okay. Right when you popped in, Karl was talking about what TKO was doing, which that is actually...
I'm probably not hearing somebody talk. I'll be back now.
Whoops! Looks like he jokes it's the joke in about the South African potato connection.
I don't know anything about this. Oh, he's from South Africa? I was wondering. I was like, that's some crazy. He sounds like an English Australian dude.
I said he was Afrikaan, dude.
I don't know what that means, dude.
Afrikaan means you're a white South African with Dutch.
I'm a silly Irishman. I don't pay attention to ethnicities.
Except when it involves Irish Americans, then all of a sudden it matters.
Oh no, then I'll rip the piss out of them.
Let's try again. The joys of the third world. Come for the food, stay for shitty internet. And that failed, but that's not the idea.
Although there's one thing
expressing my disgust that my internet constantly does this. It's either my internet or Hangouts. I don't know.
I was gonna say though, if there's one thing that unites Irishmen and Afrikaners, it's a mutual dislike of the Anglos.
Everybody hates Anglos, dude. Even Anglos. I'm back, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, Karl, how come you don't know what Afrikaan is, dude? Didn't you play Metal Gear Solid 5?
I just wasn't listening. People are complaining about how I draw tits, so I'm not good now.
Yeah, I seen that too. I was gonna bring it up, but I decided not to because you were talking.
All right, so but yeah, bringing it back to TKO, like because from what
we're gonna see,
bringing it back to TKO, I mean, like that does sound like a really viable model. Like they just put everything out carte blanche, basically. Well, not carte blanche, a la carte. They put out they do everything like basically a la carte.
Yeah.
So you can either buy the trade, you can buy a single issue, you can buy all the single issues.
The absolute best part about it is they also offer digital, but for less than physical.
Well, doesn't
wait. They actually have the first issue up for free as well for each one.
Yeah, and like you can read the first issue for free. Like they're perfect. We're gonna see a ton more. I believe the comic book industry, sorry, like the actual comic books, are gonna get taken over by publishers like, TKO, and whatever Karl and I have in mind. And I do not.
Hopefully, Wicked, if we can get them to adapt that model too.
And I do not think that 5 to 10 years from now, in the actual printed comic book sphere, DC and Marvel will have any say. I genuinely believe that. They will keep the books around, sure. They will sell a lot because Sims do exist and people, they bank on nostalgia. It's almost like, Dragon Ball. Like, there's a ton of Dragon Ball releases. They're not going to stop with Dragon Ball releases, right? Because there's nostalgia attached to that. But it also constantly evolves. It also constantly, brings out new quality. I just think that Western comics by DC and Marvel are just going to stay around to just, be like trademark things for the movies. And that's it.
Yeah.
And where the actual quality is going to come from is from TKO and Karl and I. God bless.
Actually, you guys another thing that is also, I talked about.
I'll be back. I'm gonna have to try something else because I can't hear Karl at all because reasons.
God bless. Stay safe.
Okay, so but yeah, another thing is like everyone knows who Peter Simeti is, right?
Yep.
Okay, so one thing I talked with him about Twitter over Twitter was that probably the biggest obstacle any indie creator has to overcome, which I think is even a bigger hurdle to get past than just getting the book done, is distribution. Because unless you can get through Diamond, which most indie creators can't, you're basically locked into your little area and funding the printing yourself. Because the big problem with printing yourself is that most prints print shops, they print in bulk, and most indie creators cannot afford that.
Listen, I'm gonna say something that's gonna make everybody in this chat come, right?
Mhm.
TKO distributes themselves.
Well, that's good. Well, so does Alterna.
And that's what's gonna happen in the future. Like,
yeah,
when,
like here's the thing, like where people are talking about, oh, well, you should try to get this book through Diamond, or you should try to get whatever. It's like
you shouldn't. You absolutely
these are the
never.
fucking harbingers of death. Like these are the fucking like this is you're suckling on the tit of your doom. Like that's what this fucking those monsters are. Like what are they trying to do to actually benefit people, to benefit stores, to benefit publishers?
Yeah, I do.
Like,
I think it goes without saying that a lot, like at least half of what's wrong with the comics industry is Diamond.
Yeah, but also trying to just like distribution, like you have to get your own thing, you know. Like everyone needs to just
that is what
that's
Peter,
the like
that's
make
what
it. It's the Wild West.
Alternative.
That's what I just like about this idea of the new indie and actual comics, where people are actually talking about comics and are not just political zealots. Like it's the Wild West, and everyone's working on building a new thing. And like even with the way I'm thinking about putting out Deathsworn might go in this whole new model. Yeah. And the way I'm thinking about putting it out, it's like it only comes from this new indie scene. That's the only way I'd be able to viably put this book out if I end up going the way that I'm plotting about going.
Yeah. I think
at the end of my life, I want to be known for one thing, and that's putting money back into comics.
That's a like there's your tombstone. Grand Comics. Keep putting money back into comics.
Like for real, for real. Like this also goes hand in hand with what Karl said right there, and it's absolutely true. You know, if you go through Diamond, you basically go on your knees and you pay to suck your master's dick. That's essentially what you do. Like you forfeit any kind of, you know, income to provide.
Dignity.
Yeah.
Dignity, profit, everything goes.
Everything.
And that's like, look, that's the thing. That's the real problem with comics, right? Like that's the thing that creators need to sort out for themselves. Profit, right? Comics can't be made without profit. Right? No one can live without profit.
Business can be made without profit.
Right? We need to find a way to make comic book creators that are worthy of putting out comics millionaires. That's my plan.
Yeah.
That should be everyone's plan. That should be the goal that everyone move towards.
Yeah, like I have zero sympathy. Like
being able to get the middle class.
Like if you are if you take perceived glory in being the starving artist type.
Well, that's the reason why they do that. That's like, look, dude.
I just want to
that's part of the pathology that takes over in art school. And that's the reason why these people are happy to starve. It's because it's the only way they can actually claim that the slop they're giving out is art. That's the only way.
Can I just say
so like I don't give a fuck. My art is that you get to page 20 and you want page 1 of the next book that I haven't even started thinking about yet. That's the art. The art is not fucking like making characters say like every 2 words like Tom King or putting it in 9-panel grids. Like that offers nothing.
Yeah.
And that's why these happy, like they'll always be happy to starve. Like I told you, you get objectivity thrown out. It's not like you.
Can I just say that the starving artist is a really bad cliche?
I just tweeted about this, and it's like there is nothing cool, and you know, man, I'm gonna go into waters here, but I genuinely do believe that your life and the hardships that you have faced in life are equal to the quality that your creations have. Back then, you know, think of the old comic book pros, right? Starting a whole new life, gambling everything on, you know, moving to New York and sending like, I don't know how many portfolios out and getting rejected and still keeping going, you know, getting stabbed by junkies, you know, eating absolute garbage and just eating dirt for years because you're passionate. And, you know, one of that one guy was like a Vietnam vet and a martial artist, and he was also like a really successful comic book artist.
Larry Hama is a writer.
Yeah, versus these people today. These people, comic book pros right now, have not, for the majority, have not faced any adversity, and thus they can't create stories which, you know, at its core are always a hero overcoming adversity. They just can't provide that value. You know, they don't know. They have never slain any dragons, except for like their mom's like dragon dildo or whatever with their anus.
There's like they're walking into this. They're walking. Not just that. It's just like they're not taking any risk.
Yeah. There's
Comics
stuff. Sorry.
risky.
Tank gets
Sorry if I sound weird now. It's just I'm on my phone because it's the only thing that's working. But I have to agree there with Dennis. The way these guys, they act and operate, they perceive victims. That is how they carry on. They make out like they're fighting this big, massive, oppressive monster, but the only thing they're fighting is against common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also, you know, like that's the mark of a villain. Like they're not even heroes. They don't even want to be heroes. Like they are villains. Like if you make yourself out to be a victim, you latch on to that victimhood. If you use victimhood as a character trait,
oh,
you're a villain. Like you are a bad guy. Like that's Magneto, dude. You know,
dude. There's a good quote for that. There's a guy I watch called SF Debris. He's very famous for making Star Trek reviews. He was covering the Deep Space Nine finale, and he had one of the great quotes to sum up the changelings. The changelings, if you don't know what they in Star Trek, they're just a race of shapeshifters. They're like, they always think like they treat other races. They call them solids. They think they're out to get them. And what SF Debris said about them was, when you believe that you're a victim, you will always believe you're a victim, even when you're the oppressor.
Yes. Yeah. It's victim mentality is a hella dangerous thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, fuck. I mean, like, I wrote Maeve to be like a social outcast, but she's not a victim. She just doesn't fit into her space is all. That's her. She's not a victim of anything.
I was a social. I mean, I basically still am. I'm basically there's something that Joseph Campbell wrote about. You'd know, Grant. Willed introversion, self-imposed introversion. But I was a social outcast like all through school and shit. I had to go to therapy.
That's what comics have always should
and
be.
I fucking could not be more thankful because
like
I could not be more grateful that I was fucking outcast.
You know, actually, that's a good question. It's like they seem to confuse victimhood with being an outcast.
Yeah.
It's like those are two things that, yeah, there's overlap, but they're not the same thing.
But no, but like you know, like I mean, victimhood is an important thing, but and being wrong is an important thing, and that's like the traits of your hero is that they're wrong. Like that's a hero. They're wrong and they work to be right. And these stories are like they're the opposite. You know, it's the idea that
everybody's right. Except
but they don't come from a point of even an art or a story or an arc. You know, they basically raise a point that they want to say, and then they shift a story to say that point. You know,
or in Gabby Rivera's
and like
case,
that's
all just to get a TED Talk.
Huh?
I said in Gabby Rivera's case, it's all just to get a TED Talk. I'm not joking.
I don't know.
Gabby Rivera is my favorite. Is like, if I'm a millionaire with comics, it's not because of Karl, it's because of Gabby Rivera, dude. Absolute heat pack of a woman. If she is a woman.
I don't know. Is this the I don't know who Gabby Rivera is. Is she the Puerto Rican fire hydrant?
Yeah, the one who did America. She did America Chavez, yo.
Wait, I'm looking her up because I think
You mean ruined America Chavez?
Nah,
Yeah,
America
it's ruined
Chavez.
America Chavez because she used to be a semi-decent character at one point.
Well, that's before Young Avengers.
oh yeah, she is the Puerto Rican fire hydrant.
Yeah, absolute heat pack. Like,
See, I confused their name with their fucking awful characters.
Well, to be fair, it's my
wow, that's actually a very good point because
No, see,
when you
their writing comes across as narcissistic.
Yeah.
They use their characters as mouthpieces to live vicariously through in the comics. So the way I perceive their writing at this point in time is purely it's them trying to get catharsis out of these characters. And more often than not, like as we mentioned many times, it looks like they just want to try and use this to get into television or movies.
Let me put it this way: if it's about self-insert fan fiction, at least it's honest about what it is.
Yeah,
Dude,
true.
when you
But
read
then again,
a Tom King tweet, Tom King tweets the same way he writes Batman.
8 likes.
8 likes. Like,
8
like
pounds.
one,
Did you guys see when Punk savaged him?
like one word tweets and yeah, like
Bruce Wayne doesn't talk about being in CIA.
bro, Batman is gonna end with like, man. Let's skip. Let's get to the next topic.
just to put it into perspective quickly, the diversity in comics said it the best. They write good villains. They write outstanding villains if you wrap around the fact that the main characters are the villains, but they see themselves as the heroes. If you look at it from that lens, they actually are doing a brilliant job.
Bro, even the villains nowadays are sterile.
Well, villains are jokes. The villains are punchlines.
And
Because most of the time, they're actually trying to take the archetypes of the hero and turn that into a villain.
yeah.
Like when I think of hero, like
it's all about inverting everything. It's like it's all about. That's not how it works. That's not how you do that. No, that's not how you do it. That's not how it's done. Like
you need to hate the villain. You really do. They're trying to make villains sympathetic, and that can work for some characters.
That can be done well, like Gul Dukat in Deep Space Nine. He is without a doubt an awful man, but he is. There's no
top villain.
There is very little about him that is good. He's not a good man by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not purely evil either. Like, sure, he's just a fucking Cardassian. That's what he is. He's just acting like we're superior. We have the right to rule. I mean, like you shouldn't agree with him. You shouldn't think he's a good man, but you at least see where he's coming from.
My favorite villains are like the ones that, make the hero realize that the hero is actually the bad guy.
In my mind, I think the best way that you can write a villain is villains. They always see themselves as the heroes in their story. That's how they see themselves.
That's so cool about Metal Gear Solid. Like Solid Snake is the villain. The guy you're playing is the villain.
Are you talking about like when Liquid has that whole speech about why do you keep doing this? It's because you enjoy it.
No, it's like he's a shill for the Patriots essentially. Like he's carrying out the Patriots plan and he's trying to stop Ocelot and Liquid from stopping the Patriots, which are the actual villains, just because the government told him so. He's the villain in the story. That's that's just not something you see in Western comics right now. You see you see easy heroes and you see easy villains.
I mean,
and both of these, both people should not be easy.
No, probably not. I don't disagree. Like my mind, like villains, like they need to challenge everything the hero believes in. Like they need to make them question everything.
Yeah, that's also
exactly
that's kind of what I meant. Yeah,
that's what happened in Metal Gear. Ocelot and Liquid Snake challenged Snake's views to right in the end when you reach, if you play all the way through to Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah,
he actually realized that all along that shit, I've been wrong my whole life.
Yeah. That's what I want to see, dude. And of course, there's also the villains that are so like evil, but also really, I don't know, yeah, characteristic that you just love them.
Like take the say the Joker. Like the Joker could not exist in real life, but there is something about him that he has such a magnetic personality. You can't take your eyes off him.
My favorite villain in manga is Theo from JoJo. And in the first episode, he burned the dog of the protag.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that's ridiculously evil.
Oh,
that's not even like Theo has destroyed this man's like life and his whole like ancestors, like you know the generations after him. Like 5 generations try to stop this guy. He's just still there.
Hey, what about Griffith and Berserk, Grand?
Yeah.
Griffith is awesome.
Yeah, but Griffith is not a villain.
Really?
Yeah. He's an antagonistic force, but he's not a villain.
He sacrificed all his friends to gain an ultimate power.
Yeah, but they all joined him so that they may die in order for Griffith to achieve his dream in the first place.
Uh-huh.
They all knew what was coming. Of course, they didn't know it was going to happen that way, but they all signed up for it. Like everybody was, I'm finna die for Griffith, and now everybody's mad.
Well, because they didn't think they were going to get sacrificed to demons.
Yeah, but what's the difference?
Well, one is you died for a
Also, Griffith united the whole world after that.
All getting raped and chopped to death.
Yeah, but that's what happens on the battlefield too.
Yeah, but that guy you're following, he's not doing it to you.
True. Okay. Well,
and also, Griffith, he reunited the whole world. Like he's basically making, the demon world and the apostle world and the human world live together.
Huh?
Now monsters aren't killing human. He's basically, in a sense, he's a Christ-like figure in Berserk.
Oh, he is. That is what he is. That's basically how he's been set up from the word go.
Yeah. So I wouldn't call him a villain. But like we're far away from seeing that kind of dynamic in Western comics, dude.
I can't. Yeah, you're probably right about that. But it's like, so I guess in your opinion, your guys' opinion, TKO is definitely the future of comics.
Grand Comics is the future of comics.
I don't know if TKO. I mean, it depends on. Like I've looked at a lot of the properties.
They're the first wave.
I don't. Yeah. Well, I look at a lot of their books, and a lot of them they don't hit the spot for me.
Yeah.
But I think that's just
they're at least a step in the right direction.
It's a step in it's the first snowball, and from here on out, it might take 5 years, it might take 2 decades, but we're definitely headed that way. That they're trying to walk to, or like the path that they're trying to make.
I think I guess if you're getting into if you're starting up your own comic publisher, you would be remiss if you're not paying attention to what TKO and Alterna are doing.
Yeah, definitely. Like just bypass the whole poverty distributor system. That just it's finna die, and it's gonna be cool because all like the big 2 are paying Diamond heavy to mess with the smaller publishers, and what are they gonna do, right? I mean, Alterna constantly talks about our reorders are getting canceled for no reason. Diamond is not saying anything. Our books are being shipped destroyed, which they do with with every book because they don't care, because a sucker is born every minute and decides to open up a comic book shop, even though they should never own any kind of business. And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work for publishers of the new world, but it's gonna pay off. And
well, I think it's like I'm not even looking at comics in that way no more. It's like I'm looking at it more like, because after doing the whole basically starting from nothing, putting in a book and trying to get people to do it, to now being at a point where I have something and I have people that want it, and some want it on a bigger scale and a more easily obtainable one for them. It's like I'm looking at it like you don't want to have the product and look for the person to sell it to. You want to have the people that want something to be sold to and then give them that product. Like that's how I see me going forward now.
Yeah, like there is money in comics.
No, but there's money in audience. And it's like, okay, like
that's what I mean, dude.
What's the difference between being a fucking e-girl selling your titty or fucking being someone that wants to sell or selling a print? It's like essentially the same thing is behind it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
no father figure.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
God bless.
Yeah, it's just that because like what Matt, Dan, and I are trying to do over with the Mythoverse is we are trying to build a new brand with a brand new shared universe. We are trying to bring back that spark that made Marvel and DC special once upon a time.
I would actually advise against that.
Yeah, I've had some people say to me, like, you know, oh, our universe is good fit together. Do you want to put them together? And I'm always like, no. I'm gonna have my say over all my bullshit. You can have your say over your stuff.
Dude, if I have a sort of shared universe, it's gonna be like the Soulsborne games where it's like kind of related, but it's not connected, right? There's similarities here and there, like the theme of the story, perhaps, but.
Well, one of the things that I always talk about, and I always talk to Ground about when he has like some crazy pitch for me, I always say like, sell me the property, you know, like, because people will come at you with a script, you know, and it's like, okay, but there's nothing like you're gonna start off selling me this whole product with no one. It's like I want to know the property, I want to know the world. That's always sort of when I'm making characters or I'm making a story that I can set stuff in. You know, we were discussing me and Ron were working on a property together, and he asked a question about, you know, like how many number of these characters would there be? And my whole point was like, why would you want to limit the imaginations of the people that are going to read it, that are going to involve themselves in it, you know? So I'm always coming from a point of like property as like, this is your world. This is your big Saturday morning cartoon. I want you to see yourself in this place. I want these people to come in, creative people to come in. They have their OC or their whatever characters in their head. I want them to see where they could fit it in that world. Yeah. That's stuff that people are always thinking of. And I think it's like, that's also something that a lot of the Marvel DC books are actually missing. It's like they're overshared to the point where it's like they're not special on the back street. It's like Marvel's got like a fucking crack addicted hooker with missing all her teeth, like being like trying to offer you something.
One way I put that is like with Marvel, like back in the day, crossovers in a Marvel book, those used to mean something because those almost never happened. Now it's like everyone knows the game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, right?
No.
Okay, it's a game where you know who Kevin Bacon is, right, Grand?
No.
He's an actor. And he's an actor.
Not Kevin Spacey.
No, yeah, Kevin. Okay, the way 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon goes is you name an actor, and the goal is to figure out how many degrees removed they are from Kevin Bacon, and you have to get above 6. And you almost never. And the snag is you pretty much can't. With Marvel, it's 2 degrees of separation from Wolverine.
If I tell you I've never been less excited for an X-Men title than right now.
No, that's what I'm getting at. It's like everyone has crossed over with each other. Everybody knows each other so well. It's not that.
It's that thing I was talking about at the start, where it's like these titles, these ideas, these are properties, and they all have a space to fill. They all have a certain identity. They have to be set in that area. You know, like X-Men needs to be drawn like an X-Men book. It needs to be colored like an X-Men book, and it needs to be written like an X-Men book. It can't just be interchangeable and swapped on. Now, there's certain leaps, like creative leaps, that can be taken to really push that and extend it. And if they're good, then everyone usually accepts it and they adopt it and they take it on, and that continues in further generations. But the comics, those big two comics, have lost that. There's no property to them. You know, each story is interchangeable with each character's villains and characters and whatever. You know, you can just swap it out. There's no real color palette to any of them that gives you a different feeling. There's no real art style that gives you a different feeling.
Well, I can definitely say that is not true with what we're doing with the Mythoverse. All three books, they look different. They have different vibes. They do different things. Like Changeling, what I'm doing, that's aimed at a younger, more teenage crowd, which is why it has that cutesy manga anime aesthetic. I think it's meant to appeal to that demographic. Dan is writing Adobe Kroger to be more like an action thriller. It's closer to Hellboy than anything. And Matt, if you basically have to sum what Mythics is, whose dog is that?
Sorry, that would be mine.
Okay, Matt, sell the Mythics.
Basically, a nicer Hellblazer.
I'll go close the door.
I don't know.
Outside of using the phone.
I mean, I don't know if you've even seen any of the art we put up, but they don't look, they're not interchangeable. Beth doesn't draw like Victor, and Leandro doesn't draw like Beth. They're all three books are different. They have different spaces they fill.
Yeah, well, they're. I don't know, is he feeding the dog now? I mean, they're entirely different properties, and that's the one thing that's missing from these books. They're too homogenized. That's a good word for the entire industry. Is homogenized.
Yeah, it is like it's a whole. It's almost like a connected conscience. Like every single comic book pro tweets the same thing, and they all, when something happens, they all come. It's like a hive mind of like cockroaches to like the tweet that defends them.
You're being tyrannids in this case.
Yeah, I have no idea, bro. Just
dude, get up. You meme and you don't do 40K?
No, do I look like I can afford 40K to you?
Neither can I, but I do the memes and I do the video games. That's a good place to start. There's comics, there's novels.
There's games. There's video games.
There's tons of novels.
There's video games.
I don't think I'm that autistic yet, King, but soon.
But yeah,
Karl,
you are not gonna you are not gonna achieve peak meme lord status until you start memeing 40K.
I mean, Karl is currently grooming me to be an artist, so I probably will be getting into 40K at some point. But
I'm not in the 40K at all. I don't know anything about it. It scares me. Everyone's shouting about blood and fucking weird shit. No thanks.
Look for the blood god.
That's why you don't like my pitches?
Milk for the cornflakes.
No, because your pitches are usually built on something horrible happening to some innocent young victim, usually.
Yeah. Tragedy, bro.
Future. There is only...
in terms of world building, my angle is to get this novella series out first, establish the universe, and then from there on, I'm hoping to bring out comics based on this sci-fi fantasy universe I'm doing.
Yeah, here's the one thing I notice with world building, and when I see lots of people do world building, is that like some people put world building into like their books or whatever, and it's like it's almost as if they think that no one has ever read a story or experienced any form of media in their entire life. Like, and I see it in a lot of indie guy stuff where it's like you can just leave a lot up to assumption. Like people tend to be pretty smart and spot on, and if not, they'll always make up something better than you.
Yeah, that's why I have this sprawling lore document, and when I'm writing the story, I want to tell the story. I don't want to spend half the book of exposition just explaining this is what this is what that is, and all of that. I want to avoid that. I don't want to bore the audience with the story before they've actually gotten to the story.
Yeah, I mean, like Karl. I mean, like just to use Deathsworn as like as an example. I mean, like you obviously had an idea for what this universe is like in your head, but I mean, like, would you say like you've kind of more written it very economically, like you don't get bogged down in those unnecessary world building details?
No, well, I mean, I started off, and I mean, there's some ideas that I don't know if people really like. Ideas are explained through the plot, you know, like so the basic setup of Death's One is that there are these evil guys called the Dark Stars. They're solar vampires. They're taking over the galaxy, and they've left a lot of broken people. And one of these broken people is Deathsworn. That's really it. That's all the world building you need to know, because everything else is sort of experience through the plot, like how dark stars work, or you know, how they've run out of solar energy and how they recharge, is a plot point. It's actually you know, it's a dynamic that brings characters together in the story. So that's how I try to do it. Even when it comes to other stuff, you know, it's like there's space pirates in it, but I never felt the need to say there were space pirates in it, because I'm like, well, they're spaceships. When you meet the space pirates, they're space pirates, you know.
And so, yeah, I guess like you have too many people. Matt's probably gonna hate me for this, but you have too many people who are trying to be like Brian Herbert and realizing you don't need to do that anymore.
I have zero idea who these people are.
Do you mean Frank Herbert?
Brian, no.
Yeah.
Oh, Frank Herbert. I'm retarded. Yeah, Frank Herbert.
That's his son you were talking about.
Frank Herbert wrote Dune Grand.
Oh yeah.
Not even his son can be Frank Herbert.
I only care about Dune because of Sting.
I am retarded. There, I was retarded.
Don't read that book, dude.
Yeah, but the thing with like Dune is like it is so detailed in its world building, but that's so. Is it just? I mean, does that matter just because it's a novel or because it was a different time?
Well, I think they're different things. I think novels don't work. Novels and movies don't work the same way as comics.
SF Debris.
And I think, I don't know. I mean, some people do it. Some people
Were you gonna say that?
Yeah, well, SF Debris summed up very well that the story of Dune is basically a superhero story that criticizes superheroes. And the politics of the story is basically it can be summed up as criticizing Nixon while also criticizing Kennedy.
I guess Tank. I mean, like, have you ever read Dune?
No, I've actually not read it, but I have watched pretty much every single movie they've ever made thus far, and all the miniseries that they made.
Okay, I guess like you said, like when with like your novel series, you try not to get bogged down in the world building details, but like when people talk about Dune, one of the high points they bring up about it is in the world building. So like, what makes yours different from that?
No spoilers, please. I still need to read it.
Basically, the whole idea behind mine is you will be given the needed details as and when they'll be required. The whole thing is I don't want to spend X amount of pages to explain what this is, what that is, and then from there on. Now, based on some of the criticisms I've received for people who've helped with the polish thus far, I'll need to explain a few things a little bit better. That's why I'm working on a little prologue chapter to just lay the groundwork, so to explain a few things, like basically what ethers are, what breakers are, how they fit in, and how the various types work together, and pretty much just so that you know that a pyre is essentially a fire mage, and from there on you can go forward. So basically, that when it's mentioned later in the story, you don't sit there, what the fuck is this?
I guess, and I guess the difference is like with Dune, the world is so alien, you kind of need everything explained to you. Whereas whereas your stuff is a little bit more, it's a little bit more accessible.
If you watched the majority of or read any grand amounts of sci-fi books, watch sci-fi movies, a lot of the things you'll be able to pick up on. So it's not going to be how should I put this? Made from unobtainium, so it won't be that dense and that impenetrable to you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, like that's kind of, I guess that's kind of a thing, like, because like, yeah, the world of Dune, it is so super alien. This is a massive desert planet that manufactures a spice that is needed for space travel, and you can only get it from these giant worms. Worms who have digestive tracts that are more like blast furnaces. Like, it is super detailed with its world building, like almost autistic in its world building, you might say.
How is it portrayed though? Because what I find is when it's like, man, when everything is explained to you,
Yeah.
I mean,
you can easily explain these things in action and plot, you know.
Yeah,
like there are books where it's like world building where everything gets set up and then it's sort of you start following it. But I mean, I don't see why any sort of world building can't already just be, if your plot should be set around it, you know. Because if it's important to the world, then it should at least be important to the plot, you know.
Well,
so the idea that like
someone who read book Dune here.
Yes, go ahead, Matt.
It's brought in by as the plot progresses, so it comes in when it's needed.
Cool. I mean, I wasn't necessarily just talking about Dune. I don't really care about Dune except for Sting, but
the original movie.
Yeah, but Grant asked how it was.
Well, I was I was just talking about in general sort of world building. Like I've seen some stuff where literally the first page or the intro page, the sort of the inside cover page is just an explanation of how everything is and how everything works. And I'm like,
Karl,
okay.
you didn't like Lord of the Rings then?
I don't mess with anything that has hobbits are the worst things ever. There's no need for hobbits to exist in any sort of story. They should be just killed and erased. They're not cool to look at. They're not cool to be. No one wants to be a hobbit. No one likes hobbit. They walk around with their tweed jackets, drinking tea, being horrible. They should all be exterminated. This is my final solution. I'm going to rewrite the Lord of the Rings. I'm going to get rid of everything that has hobbits in it because they're little twee British twats that shouldn't be involved in any sort of media.
Oh my god, it's the Irish, it's the Irish hatred for the Anglo.
I hate them. They're little fucking 3/4 trousers and their tweed jackets. I hate them. I can't stand them. I can't stand hobbits.
No, don't worry.
The hobbits were based on the Welsh countryside Tolkien grew up in, so you're more hating on the Welsh.
Look, what we're trying to
the Welsh
say
were the worst elves.
I believe Tolkien was also German too.
Yeah, Dark Souls.
Tolkien was also German.
It's on the Welsh countryside. That's
Can the brother talk?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, like Dark Souls does a perfect job at this, at world building. It says nothing. It's like told through item descriptions and by advancing by things happening to the protagonist. That's how it should be. But like, if you're world building, and especially in comics, if it's like a whole like speech bubble saying things, or like one of those box bubbles saying, "Oh yeah, they're attached to this machine because something." I don't think that's like, when you do that, you should not be writing a comic because that's just boring. It's like you might as well just read or write a novel, depending on where depending on what side of the spectrum.
I think that was one of the. I believe that was one of the main criticisms leveled at John Malin and the other guy, Mark Polton, Graveyard Shift. That was one of the main criticisms leveled at it, due to them using masses of bubbles just to explain what the hell is going on.
Dude, the realest advice I can give to anybody was given to me by Karl in like the first meeting, kind of editor meeting, whatever you want to call it, we had on Hangouts. He said, show me a page of a comic and I'll look at it from the other end of the room without glasses, and I'll look at the word count and how much is written, and I will tell you how much of a dickhead the writer is immediately.
That was one of my best lines.
And like he said, he like reviewed my script and he was cooking me. Like he was oiling me up. he was flipping me in the pan because of like how autistically I detailed the least important things for the artist in the script. And he said this. He said, "So you basically have no dialogue." And he paused for a second. No, actually, he said, "Your dialogue is almost non-existent up until this point." And then he said, "Which is a good thing." Like, show don't tell in comics.
Karl would love me. I've written entire pages without any dialogue.
Yeah, like
Yeah, dialogue's hard, man. Especially because there are
points.
points, in the story, and I'm dealing with that now. Like I've come to that part in the arc of Deathsworn where it's the Feely and they're down in the darkest pit and they're getting all the emotions out and shit.
Well, that's the thing.
It's needed, but it's trying to make it as necessary as possible, trying to play the character's strengths, trying to, there's the character as the comedy relief. So it's like, okay, when he raises a question that furthers the plot, it's like, well, you need it to be an effective question. You need it to at least try to be funny. Not that I'm saying I'm funny, but you need to try to be funny. And you also needed to expose a bit of his character, and it's stuff like that where I try to really cut down and do the most, like, really try to just power up these words into the point where like I'm changing it right before I've sent copies to print. I'm changing words around, to try and make it as I don't know, effective, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of my writing style is, like, I don't, like, when I have characters talking, my philosophy is they say what they need to say and nothing else.
Yeah, that's the Chuck Dixon rule.
Yeah. Don't be pretentious. Don't show your flowery writing. Don't get in the way of the story.
It's basically like you want to be clever or you want to be human. Well, readers don't care about how clever you are. They care about how human your characters feel. They don't.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things
superhuman
about Shaun Murphy stuff with White Knight. It's like that book seems like he had more stuff he wanted to say that he gleaned from like political headlines than he wanted to make a white Batman book. When I see some of the bubbles and you read some of it, you're like, okay, get out of the way. I don't want your like weird political views on poverty and crime. I want a Batman story, and I want you to get out of the way of it.
Yeah, I mean, like if I want to hear anything about politics, you know what? I've got about a half a dozen YouTube channels I can go to for that. I don't need it in my comics.
I don't even think that politics and comics are the bad thing. Well, like, Karl and I are working on a story in the Soviet Union, and we'll do our best job to make the characters as like hardcore, of course, some of them, when they're designated for it, but like we're gonna make them the most hardcore, tanky Soviet prototype in comic book existence.
They're comics, basically.
You just need to make it cool. You need to make it sexy.
Well, it's not even that. It's like, look, those, like, that's 90s X-Men is fucking every character in is Russian and a Soviet and a communist, Yeah. It's like, it's not that we're not getting into the, like, the nitty-gritty of how this, like, the dog shit of it. We're exposing an archetype, a character, It's like, look, fucking one of the most political movies ever is the Rocky one with Drago. It's fucking dog shit. It's awesome fluff, but it's America versus Russia. Yeah. And that's what comic books, all those X-Men books were. That's kind of what we were going for in that project.
Yeah.
More than that, it's like like that's, I always say, politics is just sort of dog shit. No one cares about it. But people seem to equate their values with politics, which is like the death of art. Your values are way more important in politics, and they're usually not defined by politics. Usually they're actually defined by your survival.
Well, actually, and a guy named Andrew Breitbart, he has saying that politics is downstream from culture.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Culture is values. There are values that are bred into you from culture, from killing mammoths. You have values from those same people that you survived from that were killing mammoths, like. And that's really where these characters come into play, and the politics of it, the Soviet Union, it's the drama of it, it's the dress up, it's the Red Star and the hammer and sickle. It's cool. It's the Nazi uniforms. It's cool.
I don't know.
It's the fucking werewolf with a machine gun. It's
But
cool.
we're gonna, like, Karl, when we're bigger, we'll have to defend that bit that people are gonna post on comic Twitter with you saying the Nazi armor, that's cool.
That's true. You said that on that stream at that time, and they'll make videos on it.
SJW Spider-Man, I just really want to say I love you.
You are going to take so much heat for that.
It is cool. Dude, you don't fucking have Nazis. You don't get fucking Darth Vader, dude. One of the coolest pop culture characters ever.
Should Karl, should we collab and try to make the IRA look cool then?
The fucking dude, you can't make setting a turf brick on fire and throwing it through someone's window is never going to be cool. It wasn't cool when we were fucking doing it, let alone fucking trying to do it now. I don't think IRA has ever been adapted into sci-fi. It probably shouldn't either.
Why not be the first one to make it cool?
We could try.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, great, we're on the list now.
Well, then again, Matt has to try and make the Viet Cong look cool.
Oh, fuck no.
And Tank has to make a.
They are cool. Fucker, Rambo, dude.
What do I have to make look cool?
Tank has to make.
You never seen Rambo? Viet Cong is
cool.
cool.
People have already done that themselves many times over. I didn't have to take part in that shit show at all.
My grandfather fought the Viet Cong, so I'm not going to do anything with them.
Dude, Rambo. That shit is cool. When you see fucking Rambo mowing down a bunch of those.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's not us. That's what they're there for.
That's basically all I'm gonna do with a Viet Cong story.
Well, then I guess we got to do an IRA story, Karl. We got to make sure it's like basically Rambo and do Rambo, but put it in Belfast.
I'm not gonna deal with that, dude. I've already the reason why my name is rare is because I had a relative that murdered 3 black and tans. So
no.
I think I've already taken up on that part. I don't think I need to revisit it.
Red, I have a question. Why you're Irish too, right?
Irish American.
Yeah, I was wondering why you don't have the same pop brawler accent that Karl has.
Because I'm Irish American. I'm born and raised in the States. The only thing.
So you're not Irish.
I'm Irish.
I'm kidding. Just teasing you.
Hey, what generation was Irish? Is your parents Irish?
My dad is a 7th gen Texan, so it's got to go back really far. Probably it could go back 3 or 4 generations for all I know.
Boy, do I have a meme for you.
Oh boy.
Can I can I screen share up in this hole?
Go ahead.
Hold on. hold on. Let me get it.
Although here's
Karl, do you still have that meme?
Here's something. Wait,
I think I've used that meme.
I know. Wait, I think I know what this is. I think I know where you're going. I know. Is this the one where Patrick says, "I'm going to go to America. It'll be grand"?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've seen this one already.
Where is it?
This was the one. This is from the thread when I told him that Grant is not going to master the Irish accent until he binge watches Father Ted.
Father Ted is good. I give props to anyone who actually knows Father Ted, though. Grant, do you know Father Ted?
No.
See, you're cultureless swine. That's what you lot over there.
Yeah, I'm cultureless. Sorry, I'm not from the
Afrikaner knows Father Ted.
Basically, fucking hobbits over there in fucking Deutschland.
Yeah,
I love Jack. Fuck! Let's drink.
Yeah, they're good ones.
I think one of the funniest scenes in Father Ted was that one time when Jack was accidentally ended up at Alcoholics Anonymous, and then he goes over to a bar and he's just yelling, "Drink, drink, drink!" And then the guy comes over and says, "No, Father, I'm doing this. I'm stopping you. It's for your own good." And then ambulance.
Yeah, they have great comedy cuts in that. Some great writing. Like,
yeah, how's the chat doing, by the way? Anybody watching?
We've only got one person. Last person to chat in the chat was Greyhold, and he said he roasted you, Grand.
Bro, like, we gotta interact with the chat more. You gotta pay attention to that kind of stuff.
I've got to get I need to get a second screen because otherwise I gotta watch both windows, and that can be a bit problematic.
What do you mean? Like, you only need to watch one? Just watch the chat.
It'd be easy. But then I gotta split my attention. Although the caveat is nobody ever watches our shows. It's more us just hanging out.
Yeah, the morning show is usually the one that is just hanging out. We don't get that many viewers during that time.
Yeah.
Nodded on her hand so she could hold my kids.
Dude, I think Vamp gets more views than we do.
Who's Vamp?
Vamp Candy. She's from the Kumite.
No idea.
Never mind. But okay. But yeah.
Is Kumite always those bunch of guys that are threatening to fight each other because they say mean things to each other on a stream?
Oh yeah.
And as soon as the live chat was brought up, the viewership just plummeted.
Whoops.
Fight me IRL.
It's a whole clown world up in there in comics, Twitter, Cosmos.
Don't even. Let's not get started on that. I can wax lyrical about how bullshit comics Twitter is at this point in time for ages, and I'd rather not do that.
Well, we don't want to get. Let's just say we do not want to get in the crosshairs of certain individuals at this point.
It's okay, bro. The war campaigners are gone. The special ed teacher locked the room.
I'm not taking chances until it's official.
Oh, I'm gonna get whole legions of, like, literal legions, actual legionnaires too.
I'll just bring a barbarian horde to the gate.
Bro, I don't even got a problem with them.
Actually,
like,
yeah, you should be going like.
I wonder if it's. I'm just curious, you know. I'm just curious if it's like a fetish.
You should dude. Why don't you just do that? Be like a lark and bring the Saxons to the gates.
Yeah, like, I can't say I hate the war campaign people. I just really wonder. I don't know, man. It's like Rokabir. He's like the weirdest one, and I mean that positively because he's tweeting like he's actually like a Roman centurion, and apparently like he has kids. I wonder if it's just him coming on like, yeah, honey, I'll be there right in a second, and then it's like, brothers. I wonder if it's like going to the pub and just brawling and just, you know, whiling and just, you know, letting off steam, and then he's having a normally adjusted life. He's like the coolest of them. I don't know. No problems with him. I wouldn't want to be seen with them either, though.
I think the one that was really causing the most trouble has him banned from Twitter for good. So,
is it the one that likes to molest Wookiees?
Yes, the man who molests Wookiees.
Well, I ain't even know him, but I already know I like him a ton.
Yeah.
Probably the worst thing that ever came from Solo.
Yeah, well, all popular culture will be destroyed at the current rates, which is why we have to create new things.
Yes.
Yeah, just, you know, comics are like they always were like a haven, right?
Yeah.
When I think of comics and manga, I think of a haven I can dive into and just, forget the troubles of the world and not be like reminded of the creator's troubles, you know. Of course, I do realize that back in the day, creators obviously, and this is, what I also said, where the more dragons you slay in your life, the better your creations are. Obviously, those, X-Men creators of old, obviously they experienced a lot, and obviously they poured a lot of that into their craft, but it's just something different. It's just something like they had actual problems. They didn't have an emo phase that lasted into the 30s.
I think just for perspective, Jerry Conway, who made the Punisher, do you know where that came? Where he got the whole idea of from the Punisher? Basically, it was him getting mugged on his way to work one day.
Yeah, see, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, not him getting mugged, but him creating Punisher out of that, like negatives into positive. That's what comics should be.
Also, by the way, Greyhole just put back in the chat, molest Wookiees. You take a break for like a few minutes, and word I cannot say on air without getting banned. Go full nuts, XD.
Yeah, bro. Like, dude, you missed Karl and I wilding. Like, listen, I'm obviously I obviously know how to behave. Like, I just don't go on stream and call people, I don't know, whatever. I don't say whatever, but like, it's getting looser and looser every single day when I look at the comic book industry and what they're so sterile. It makes me want to wile even more. It's weird. It's like they're just not exciting. There's no humor,
there's no joy,
no force, no bite, nothing. Western comics have nothing right now.
There's no enthusiasm. There's no sincerity. Like again, just bring it back to Karl. I can tell. My impression of Deathsworn is this is like some bizarre hybrid of 80s synthwave and synthwave Flash Gordon and Reb Brown movies smashed together, but nothing about it feels faked. Like he's completely sincere about it, and I pick up on that.
Yeah, Karl is really sincere about it. He's like he really is good at making things cool and making cool things. Both are different things. When you look at a Deathsworn cover, and then you open and read, the interior art is just as good as the cover. That's something you do not see by Marvel.
Tank just messaged me on Slack. He's having issues with his PC, but yeah, you're completely correct about that. There's just like these people they've got no love for the medium. They've got no enthusiasm, and there's
no sincerity.
They're not faking it.
Like variant covers, and covers right now in comics in general are false advertising.
They're faking it. 100%.
Yeah, and Karl isn't doing that. Like, he doesn't hire the expensive cover artists for the cover, and the ones that they kind of want to do just for the tax write-off. Those get to do interiors. He's not doing that. He's like putting everything into the product, everything into the property, and that's what he's teaching me. Like, he doesn't have to teach me that, but like that's what he's kind of drilling into me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like
he's like an editor / like mentor kind of thing. It's like I learned a lot from him, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Karl. I mean, like I remember back like a while ago, you posted like pics of a cable comic you drew like when you were, what was it, 9?
Oh, he's peeing right now, I think.
Shit.
But yeah, he did that cable comic when he was 9, dude, and like
dude,
you saw how good that was, right? He's like natural born talent.
This was a guy who was born to make comics.
Yeah, he really was, and like it's crazy. Yeah. I value him a lot. He's a good guy. Also.
I mean, like fuck. I mean, like I don't think there's any even. I mean, at least in our corner of the indie sphere, I'm not seeing any shortage of enthusiasm or sincerity. Like Cody, like what Cody does with Jack Irons, he's not faking that one bit. He loves what he's doing. He loves this world he's building. This universe he's creating, and he is trying to build something out of this, out of the Irons verse. I mean, like
A lot of comic book pros are doing that too, but they shouldn't be. Like remember when I said a lot of people are opening comic book stores when they shouldn't?
Yep.
Like, do you all know the YouTuber for Neverworld?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Nope.
He's been an anime YouTuber for years, right? And of course, everybody has to get into music. So now he's pushing this whole music thing, and it's never gonna happen. It's trash. Of course, he has a passion for it, but like, he shouldn't be a musician. He just shouldn't. And a lot of these comic book pros should never be professional comic book pros, but they are. And oh man, like firing maybe 60% of comic pros would already improve like a lot of things.
Well, I think that problem is more of a front end problem as well. You know, like there's no value put into these things. It's sort of become a valueless exercise. And so it only sort of attracts a lot of people. Yeah, that's why when you get someone who's special, like Shaun Murphy or whatever, that just completely unique.
Yeah.
You know, like those people like make bank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people like him will, that's what I want to push. I want to push, I do believe in creator-owned properties. That's why I said earlier I really advise not to go down the whole shared universe route. I do think we have too many creatives working on one comic, right? There's like 40 people working on one single issue, and there's like multiple artists, like multiple pencilers even, and different inkers and colorists. The reason why manga is so successful and why it's so good is because it's the vision of one guy, or like of one writer and one artist, but like of a team, of like a consistent story is told by the creator. That's why I would only do creator-owned books and really treat them like blockbusters dropping. Like, I've never seen like big comic book industry companies do things like, I don't know, trailers for books or soundtracks for books. Like Karl does that, and he does that with like I don't know how much less of a budget than Marvel, and he's so much more successful with it.
We did that with the Mythoverse. We got like 3 trailers out for all 3 of them.
And like when I hear Shaun Murphy, I just imagine somebody that gets it. A lot of room, for improvement, but like he's solid, dude, and he's just marketable. Yeah. Like when I heard that Shaun Murphy is working on a what's the guy's name that he's drawing right now?
Azrael.
Yeah, Azrael. Thanks. Like when people heard he was drawing Azrael, people were hyped just from that, and that's something that I want to bring back to comics, dude. Just that, I guess, excitement and the money. Both are things that are needed.
We definitely got excitement. Let's see. Well, we got a Kickstarter come out in 8 days, so we'll see how that pans out.
Why did you guys choose to go the Kickstarter route?
We saw more better foot traffic on Kickstarter.
I've seen that with some people that sort of have had no audience, and they put a book up, even though it's like humble, but they still fulfill it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just that was a group decision. Like we just decided, like Kickstarter just seemed like a better option for what we were trying to do, and like what we're trying, like I said, we're trying to get people invested in what's essentially a new brand over at Wicked. Hoping, we're constantly, me, Matt, and Dan, we're constantly bouncing ideas between each other. Like, how can we make this thing bigger? Like, how can we push this thing further? So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of the things that I sort of try to do is that your characters, no matter how serious you want to take them, they're essentially Mickey Mouse,
Yeah.
you know. And one of the things I sort of try to do, and it's weird because I still haven't figured out how to do it, except for just throw out material, but it's to try make like you have to let people in your playground and you have to let people play with your toys, you know.
Mhm.
And so I sort of want people to sort of fan girl over that's one fangirl over Tatiana and go like, oh, Tatiana's a waifu or whatever, you know? Like sort of want people to really
Maeve at this point.
oh,
She's
yeah,
under.
well,
She's 14. If you're waifuing a 14-year-old girl, there's something wrong with you.
Bro, that's legal in Germany.
What the fuck is Germany like the Alabama of Europe?
Bro, my biggest crush in middle school got deflowered at 12 at a party, dude. Like a stall room, bathroom stall. Like everybody here is like losing their virginity at like 11. It's hella degenerate, dude.
Okay, so I'm definitely keeping change. So I should probably avoid releasing Changeling to Germany then. Thanks.
yeah, you should
Dude.
never don't ever do the, you know, a changeling goes to the Germany Christmas special. It would be horrific.
Yeah,
There's nothing here. Like Germany is more. You think it's more exciting than it actually is. Also, just to go back to that previous point, I know like people that were 14 and slept with like 60-year-olds, and it's completely legal.
What the fuck is wrong with your country, yo?
Man, 2 world wars do a thing. They mess with you.
They're like stooling too.
Wow, we're not gonna get into that one.
Yeah, okay.
I couldn't wait to bring that up when it was silent.
I'm putting. Is this an embargo? I'm embargoing Germany for Changeling.
Y'all should have nuked us instead of Japan. I don't know, but at least we got anime.
Yeah, I kind of like what Karl said. Like, you'd want people to basically you want them to, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, fall in love with your characters. Like,
yeah, or just don't see them as sort of like these untouchable things where they're only yours to play with. You sort of want to let them out there, and you want people to feel like you want to establish a character enough to the point where people feel like they have a say in it, because that means that they actually have like a, you know, they have risk in the story. They've staked something on the story, and so if you really put out your character, and so people almost like, you know, people know how they will react, then you can set them up for the explanation, the twists, the turns, the, you know, hid the secret origin or whatever. But it also means that they banked it. They banked that character and they know where they're going with it, you know?
Yeah,
I guess. I'm trying to figure it out on the flight.
I don't know. It's just like, I guess one takeaway from that is there's no right way to do this. Like, if there was, everyone would be doing it.
No, and fucking Marvel or the people that have billions of dollars don't even know how to do this shit properly. So, you know,
we're all we're at this point where we're all just figuring shit out as we go and hoping we figure out the method that works.
Listen, there's comics and there's corporate comics. Corporate comics, you know, I think Marvel is actually like, in their own way, they're winning, dude. Like, they're selling comics to people that are like, they're unloading garbage on people and overcharge for it, and people are somehow gladly paying for it. And like, it's not even their main business. The main business of comics is movies. And like, I don't know, man. I think, man, the ANCAP in me thinks it's kind of smart. I kind of admire that about Marvel. You know how they just suck the money out of simps' pockets for nothing. I don't know. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I suppose so. Greyhold says Lolicons, we call them Lolicons XD. Yeah, we do too.
Oh man.
Out here, lolicons go to prison.
Oh yeah, you're in the States, right? It's like legal to you gotta have sex at like 18, but you can go to the military at 17.
We gotta, and you can't drink until you're 21. America has a few goofy ideas.
Yeah, that's crazy. The drink until 21 thing is mental. I was talking to a guy who's American, and he was like, "Yeah, well, we had to, sneak drinking around our parents when we were 18." I was like, "What the fuck?" That guy's
That's
full
one thing
on.
I don't understand. At 18, I apparently have the mental capacity to sign up for the military and potentially get shipped off to some third world sandbox where I can get killed. But I'm not mature enough to drink till I'm 21.
Yeah. Yeah. God bless America.
So we have a lot of goofy ideas.
Yeah, but with America, Americans view America the same way I view Israel. Americans view America as a very great country. But man, they really want to lynch the people in charge in Washington.
Yeah. I mean, dude. I mean, of course, I love America. This is my home. I grew up here. I'm loyal to it. I'm as about as nationalistic as it gets. But it's just like that doesn't mean I'm blind to some of the goofier things that go on here.
Yeah. Like George Washington was pretty patriotic about America. And he really hated the government and really wanted to, he actually killed them.
Well, they wanted to make him king, and he said, I fought against a king. Why would I want to be one?
Yeah, exactly. And, that's how I view Israel, too. I love Israel. It's my favorite country. But y'all really wildin'. Y'all really wildin' at some point.
Aye. Okay, so, we've been going on for, let me check how long we've been going. About 2 hours. I think we've taken, you guys feel like we've taken the conversation about as far as it can go? I
don't even know
it as far, off
why was I brought here? You explained why Graham was brought here, and then we got on a big tangent. That's been the entire show.
I wanted to pick your brain. That was why.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My brain has been picked.
Pretty cool.
It's been pickled.
But still, I mean, I think what we did have, I think we had a real good conversation here. It's like it goes without saying, we're in the middle of watching the comics industry, at least in the West, go through a transition phase. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you're getting into the publishing game, you need to pay attention to what TKO and Alterna are doing, because they're taking the first steps to what is going to be the future.
Yeah.
What, Alterna? Wait, are you talking about? Wait, yeah, no. Newsprint is not going to be the future.
I'm not saying.
No, you meant TKO. Bypassing, bypassing.
I forgot. I completely blanked that. Did you say TKO or Alterna? But bypassing?
TKO.
Making something cheaper. Even though I believe in I like the idea of making this story that can rip your heart out and get you involved and bring you on this roller coaster. I like the idea of that being put on, essentially the same stock that you wipe your arse with. But I also don't think it's I like the punk poetic attitude of that. But I also don't think that it's I don't think it's necessarily viable as a big league profitable business. You have to really put out something that's like the Bond Disney stuff, big books that are valuable, that are these gorgeous big blockbuster things. Yeah, this stuff that you put on a coffee book table and you go, "Oh, look at that," Yeah, and yeah, but it's also the value is in the weight of it. It's in the stock. It's in everything. I do like the idea of that whole poetic punk attitude of the newsprint, but I also think that it's not the thing with that is that it makes the product cheaper, and so you can charge less for it. But at the end of the day, you're always selling to less people. And so to me, it seems like, no. You put all the value into the product. You put it into the page, into the cover, into the stock, so you can actually charge more on it. So you make it more valuable, so you can make more money, and you have that cultivated, even though it's less. You have that cultivated audience that you give that to. Because
you're not wrong there, man. But it's just like when I'm talking about paying attention to what Alternative's doing. It's, and this is what Grant was saying. It's more like what Peter's trying to figure out a way to bypass the diamond system.
Yeah, no, it's just called your postal service. Like, you don't need a diamond.
Well, it's not. Well, it's not just the distribution; it's also printing. Like his, like, I think if I had to
postal service,
if I had to guess, what I think Peter is trying to do, I don't know if he can. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think what Peter is trying to do is get Alternative to a place where he can do everything from his house. Like he is trying to get his. I don't know if he has to go through another printer or anything, but I think he's trying to get Alternative to a point where he can print all the stuff himself. He can control everything.
Yeah, but it's also like, I mean, I'm like, Marvel doesn't own its printers. Like they clearly go if they get their somewhere and they get it back. But
or you're gonna create 5 whole books a day. It's not gonna happen, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like there's nothing more to say about this new form of like the twist in the comic book industry other than try have people to sell something to, and try engage with those people, and that's what Stan did. That's what Stan made. Jack made the books. Jack came up with those characters. Stan sold them.
Yeah,
that's what Stan's job was.
Yeah.
And so but no one has adapted that. Like when I'm talking about rebooting the industry, about really solidifying these properties as properties, an X-Men book shouldn't look like a Captain America book. Captain America book shouldn't look like a Captain America book should always have a pure Americana, like Mitch Breitweiser, Norman Rockwell type artist on it, like always. Like that's the aesthetic. That's the property. That's what you want to evoke.
In other words, the only person who should be making Captain America books these days is Alex Ross.
It's Alex Jones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alex Ross is sort of, he has his whole other aesthetic onto him that he can't really change, which is like everyone looks like a TV show from the 70s, which is cool, but it's his own thing, like that's why he's just applied the stuff. But like all these properties need to be reestablished as properties. And I don't know where I was going on with that.
Yeah, I mean,
like when you're selling stuff to people, that's really it. You have to be honest in your selling, and I don't get a lot of honesty. I don't know what I'm buying when I'm looking at these things. The cover doesn't tell me what's on the inside. I don't know where the story is going. It's part of like this weird culturalist modern sort of depiction of these characters where, like, I don't know. It's almost as if like Captain America can't exist in the same timeline as a smartphone. Like there's just something about it that kills adventure, that kills these characters.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like, you're not wrong. I don't disagree with you on that one bit, but there's still the matter of the distribution, which is the biggest.
Yeah, but what does distribution matter when the comic stores die out, which they will?
No, I know. Look, but that's still a big hurdle for indie creators to overcome.
Like, I put there's like, I mean, there's stores over here. There's stores that take my books, and there's stores that don't take my books. Stores that don't take my books is the stores that my books don't sell in. The stores that do take my books are the stores where my books can't stay on the shelves because people buy them. So, like, to me, is like you can't just, the stores aren't just this innocent store thing that's like, why isn't everyone coming to us? It's like, well, there's any other problem. Like, what if a store looks gaudy from the outside? Like, then okay, it looks gaudy. Like, no one's going to go into it. Like, they're their separate business entity. They're part of this industry, but it's like, as an indie creator, it's like I mean, I can buy a stamp and an envelope.
Yeah, but yeah,
and I can ship it to bumfuck nowhere town, and that guy can get it. And if I can convince him through my work, through attitude, through trying to monetize myself, because we're at a stage, like, that's the thing that people don't understand when they say separate the art from the artist. It's like, no, like my art is separate to me, but I want to be a part of selling it. Like, the art extends to Twitter, the art extends to YouTube, the art extends to these live streams, the art extends to how I put myself out there and how I interact with people and how I bullshit with people, So if I can make someone, like, just by my goings on, by my bullshittery online, they bite the bullet to get the book shipped to Australia, it's like, awesome, cool, I like you and you like me, good. But I mean, when it goes to larger stuff, it's like, whatever, it can burn and die. They could fix it if they wanted to. Down to DO toll stores, there's an industry, one of those industry insider convention things, and down to DO toll stores don't talk about problems online. So they can fix it if they want to. They just don't want to.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like I said, I don't think you're wrong. I don't disagree with you, but it's just like I want to get when I get Changeling done, I want to get it in as many people's hands as possible. And it's like,
yeah, but why is that? Why would you leave that up to anybody else but you?
Because printing's expensive, and I ain't get the cash for that.
Yeah, but again, why would you leave that up to anybody else's hands but you? Like, printing can be expensive, but that's the idea of, like, you can sell your art before you sell it. You can sell your art before you print the book.
Yeah.
And then people can voluntarily, if you're doing a Kickstarter, that's what that is. You're selling your art. You're selling the book before you actually sell the book. So I mean, when people talk about distribution or stores or whatever thing, it's like, yeah, I mean, look, all those stores that I was talking about, that, like, they put my books go in over here, some that they don't, some that they do. It's like, there's other books in there that stay on the shelves and they don't move. And just because they're in a store doesn't mean anyone's going to pick them up, And I've get people going into those stores because of Twitter, because of me, because of the art, because of the bullshittery, because I've monetized myself. So, like, that's the end goal. Everybody has now being empowered by having everyone has been given, like, this huge megaphone that they can speak through. And, like, how is that any different than distribution? You're gonna, like, because you have to sell the books to Diamond, even if there is distribution or a distribution channel. Like, you have to sell them the books. Like, you have to give them a cut. You have to give stores a cut. Like, I'd much rather, I have an extra 10 of these books. Let me take a bus into town. I'll go into the store and I go, here you go, lads. Here, take it. I don't want any money from it.
I mean, that's a fair point.
That's based.
Yeah. I guess I just kind of look at it as because I'm with Wicked Publishing now. It's just I have a vested interest in getting as many books into as many people's hands as possible, because it's not just good for me; it's good for them too. Helps the company grow.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like that's you, dude. Like, you do that. Like, don't ever bootleg. Don't wait for someone else to pick it up or shill it around.
You are making it sound like distribution is a lot less complicated than people are talking.
No. I'm talking about distribution. Like, I mean, I just don't buy into that method of, like, because I'm not looking at I'm not looking at comic books. My books are not the survival of the industry. I don't care about the industry.
Yeah, same. We're building our own thing.
I care about the craft. I care about the art. That's my goal. That's my highest enemy.
None of us are walking into this thinking we're going to be the ones who save the comics industry. We just
no. But I'm just talking about how like those channels don't necessarily mean success, or those channels don't necessarily mean growth. You know, like I honest to God, if I did a tattoo convention, I'd sell more books having a stand at a tattoo convention than I would at a comic convention.
Really?
I'm telling you right now, because people who go to comic conventions, here's two things that they don't like. They don't like comics and they don't like art. You know what everyone who goes to a tattoo convention likes? They like art. Everybody who goes to a tattoo convention likes art.
Wonder how I'd do if I hit up an anime con.
You'd probably sell. I mean, I don't know what that is there, but your character definitely like has that sort of aesthetic. They'd be into that.
Definitely.
A lot of the people who go to anime cons have a certain amount of money to spend on RSL booths.
Oh yeah, even I noticed that at comic conventions over here, the anime people make bank. Like anime people make way back. You draw, dude. If I just drew two dogs fucking each other, I'd make more money at a convention than selling that.
Yeah, just do furry porn, dude. It's a good source, stable income.
Exactly. How do you not know I'm already doing it, dude? It's my Twitter handle, my second Twitter handle. Trace a couple of IP addresses on those Twitter posts, man. You'll be
surprised. Here's something. Maybe we should just hit up. Maybe we should hit up fantasy conventions too. Those exist.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know over here. I've never heard of fantasy.
People that go to fantasy conventions but vaccinate their kids are posers.
That's, I don't know where the connection is there. Okay.
Yeah, like fantasy is usually in the Middle Ages. Y'all know?
Oh, now I get it. Black Death.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they also use toilets.
Being a polio cripple.
Huh. Oh, and the chat says World of Halloween says, "Hey, Salem LeBlanc says May would be a good fit, and so far she's the most marketable image of Wicked so far, in my opinion." Well, right now the only thing Wicked has as far as a mascot goes is Jack Irons.
He's probably the most well-known character.
Well, Cody's been with them the longest, I think.
Well, that and he's been marketing the character.
Also a good character because it's that character, you know. It's iconic, you know. I'd say because I've done fan art of it. Sometimes I don't understand if his arms are bandages or if they're cyborg arms, or if they're
it's metal. It's metal armor. It's literally metal plates he uses for body armor.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I've seen some people do it and it looks like bandages. And when I did it, I was like, I'm gonna do it like Colossus arms or something, you know. But like, yeah, so he's cool. He's iconic. It's the big ass shoulders, hat, and at the same time, that world, it gives you a lot of play because it sets up so much, you know. It's like God that's lived forever, but it's also a weird spacey sci-fi twist, and so everything has this new sort of twist to it where you can it's a sandbox world. It's cool to play with, but that character is cool. That's iconic. It's, you know, it's cowboy sort of Wolverine-y. It's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Jack Iron, there's
sexy. Make it sexy.
Fuck, I mean, dude, I've got a physical copy of Jack Irons in my room right now. I mean, like, this was something I told Cody back in the day. Like, does anyone here remember back when Jack Irons was exclusively black and white?
Oh, yes.
No, but I think I got on to the Jack Irons train when he was getting it colored. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the way I told Cody was Jack Irons black and white looks like a pulp novel, which is good. Those had really top tier artwork, but Jack Irons colored looks like a Mobius comic.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's just damn. Yeah. But yeah, I think we will call this conversation good. I think we had a lot of good opinions get out. And Grand, Karl, thanks for coming on. You guys have open invites if you ever went back on.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for the invitation.
Mm-hmm. And sorry for technical difficulties.
Yeah. That's South African potato connection.
Yes, it sucks.
Yep.
It's making it authentic, though.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So yeah, thanks to everyone who did show up in the chat, and we'll see you guys as next week.
Can I say one thing though?
Go ahead.
Support Karl. Karl and we got a hentai coming out. It's called Jawbreakers. It's called Jawbreakers.
Jawbeaners. Jawbeaners.
Support me and Matt and Dan's Kickstarter. Yo, it comes out in 8 days.
Yeah. Go support that. Go support World Without End when it drops. Written by me, art by To Be Announced. God bless America.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say that in Germany?
Huh?
Are you allowed to say that in Germany?
God bless America?
Yeah.
Dude, Germans are on America's dick. Like, in our supermarkets, we have a whole section. Like, I'm not kidding. We got like whole sections of quote unquote American food, which is like popcorn and like buns.
Okay, dude, I need pics of this so I can tell you how much of that is actually accurate.
It isn't like there's like cookies and like popcorn, marshmallows. That's like American food in Germany, and it sells like it sells great, dude.
You need to get pics, put them on Twitter at me, and I will tell you if those are.
Or do you know what Germans call toast? American sandwich.
Please.
That doesn't sound
crazy crowds.
Have you seen how big an American is?
Bro, like American, like staple food in American diet is marshmallows and like American sandwich toast.
Peanut butter is always there.
Somehow peanut butter. Oh yeah, like it always.
Well, you're talking, I guess, like because we have some of those sort of real Slav stores over here, like Lidl and Aldi and stuff. And they always have that section, like a big corner of it will be like American food. And
yeah, they're a German.
Like,
they're a German. They're actually from the town where I am from. They have
everything is plastered with like the Star Spangled Banner, and it's
yeah. Like literally, our toast has like it has
stars
like a woman. Yeah, stars and stripes, and a woman wearing a cowboy hat.
Literally. Oh Lord, it's just sticking a couple slices of bread into a toaster. That's all it is.
Like American cookies. And like stars and stripes. Oh, man.
I knew this Finnish girl way back in the day. She said, I didn't like American pancakes. The dough is too salty, and I had to tell her, we don't make nobody makes pancakes with dough in the States. It's made with batter. It's not salty at all.
It's weird, dude. Germany wildin'. But yeah, God bless. Thanks for having us on the stream. Yeah. We need not prolong this any longer.
I'll kill the feed right now.